Welcome to the Bayesian Conspiracy. I'm Eneasz Brodsky.
I'm Steven Zuber.
I'm Jay Sticky.
And we are going to I am going to make a real quick feedback thing before we jump into the sequence post today, if that's okay?
Make a feedback thing.
Okay, apparently, I did not know this, so this is good information found out on our Discord. Last episode, we were talking about various supplements, and one of the big ones that we like is, God, how do you pronounce the whole thing? Nicotinamide ribosine?
Yep, riboside.
Riboside, thank you. NR for short, which is just what I always think of it as and call it. Turns out that's not shelf stable at room temperature. It degrades like slowly over a month's time. It apparently will lose like 20-25% potency.
Oh, so you've learned that you've been tossing a lot of this basically in the toilet?
It sounds like possibly, yes. So as a note, keep it probably in the refrigerator if you keep it, because that'll be fine. And, it's not terrible if you only buy a 1 month supply, but if you bought like a 3 month supply, then by the time you get to near the end of your third month, it's mostly degraded.
Yeah.
Apparently.
That's annoying. I know that like dry pills that you get a bottle of Tylenol or I don't know, hydrocodone, or like all the ones that are dry packed pills, like not the liquid gels, not the ones with the capsules on them or whatever. They always say they expire in 2 years. They're good, like 98% for like 15 years.
As long as you keep it dry.
Yeah.
And they usually, I don't know, they package in those little silica gel, or there's crap. One of the brands of pills that I got recently had like a actual little like dehydrator mechanism in there. And that was cool because it was like krill oil, and those they kind of turn into jelly over time.
They absorb more and more humidity.
I stopped taking even though doctors still recommend fish oil, but that's another thing about the shelf stability thing, where fish oil can go rancid, and apparently a lot of the fish oil capsules you buy are rancid.
I can confirm I buy 180 at a time, and that means I buy it once.
Well, you can buy it rancid because it might have been sitting on the shelf in the store or in stock somewhere.
Yeah, that could be it too. Whatever it is, when it arrives, because it's been 100 degrees out in the shipping truck that it arrived in, you open it and it just hits you in the face like, fish smell. And so then some of them are melted to the bottom. So I end up usually putting them in the freezer and then shaking them apart when I get them. I mean, if they cost more than $8 for 150, then, I wouldn't bother wasting money on it.
So I've just been eating fish, but
that's the smart way to probably consume fish parts.
Yeah.
But, I don't know.
Yeah, apparently the Nootropics Depot.
I just say nootropics, but apparently the correct pronunciation is nootropics. You gotta it's pronounce both O's, and that just nobody does that.
And your GIFs and get out of here.
Yeah.
Oh wait, GIFs.
GIFs.
Fuck GIFs.
Yeah, I did it wrong.
But the place that we linked, Nootropics Depot, does keep them refrigerated in their warehouse, from what I heard anyway. I didn't look into it personally.
And they test all their stuff too. That's just...
So just keep it refrigerated once you get it at home. And
I feel
it really shouldn't degrade much, if at all, on the shipping trip over.
Yeah, there's you guys, you did an episode before on nootropics, right?
We did.
Was I on that? I don't think I was on the podcast yet.
It was enough years ago that it's completely faded from my memory.
Maybe do another one at some point.
After Katrina left, but before you joined.
Okay.
Could be.
Yeah, we had a 9-10 month period like that.
I remember the period. I couldn't tell you one episode we did during that time.
I believe Nootropics was one of them.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
we had
to do another one at some point.
For that one. Or somebody. We had a guest on for that one.
I think you had a guest on.
Well, I know we had a guest
and
on.
I think it was biohacking, not nootropics, but as the topic, but you talked a lot about nootropics.
Okay.
I think it was under the umbrella of biohacking.
Oh, if it was biohacking, then it was that guy from Russia that we had.
Oh yeah, he was on the live episode too, right?
Maybe.
Or was it a different guy?
I don't know. I remember that we had a guy from Russia do an episode with us.
There's only two, right?
And he was talking about
There's only 2 dudes in all of Russia.
And it was
lucky dudes.
He was talking about how he had been taking 100 or 200 milligrams of modafinil every day for the last several years, and it was doing great and that sort of stuff.
Okay.
That rings a bell. Okay.
So first of all, I feel I want to re-listen to that now.
But he turns not Russian.
We talked to a Russian guy about modafinil at some point.
Okay.
If you know or are this Russian guy, let us know in the comments.
I don't know what my issue is. It's for posterity, if anyone's listening to this, years down the road, and COVID has been over by that point. Everyone's brain is mush at this point in 2020.
My brain is so mush.
We're recording near the end of
I need some nootropics.
End of November, and I was just thinking about that this morning. Like, I thought it was October still, even though Thanksgiving just happened, and
It's almost, yeah, it's gonna
yeah,
be December in like, like what, 2 days, 3 days?
2 days.
it's been
Dang.
such a fucking waste of a year. Like, I
I
mean, I've done
know.
stuff, but it's just like the whole year has just been like this weird haze.
I know.
Write it off.
But like at least it's been like I don't know if this is comforting, but like I kind of keep thinking, well, at least it's been a shit year for everyone. So like we're all kind of right here
Yeah.
in depression land. Oh, what were we talking about? We were talking about these like sequences, weren't
Yes, we should get into them so that we can get on to the main topic. So our sequences for today are the first one is the lens that sees its flaws, which is an old favorite of mine, and I confess that I missed reading these this week. So who would like to start?
I'll start us off.
You have read them before, though.
I have, yes.
Yeah, and this one is that, I mean, it's 2 minutes. It says it's a 2-minute read at the top. I would like just to read the whole thing because this is one of the ones where, I think your phrasing at some point was Eliezer has like a great word count to information ratio. And this is one of those that just comes through super heavy. There's so much to think about in a 2-minute read. And this is one of my most memorable and favorite ones. The overall, if I had to summarize it in a couple of sentences, and then we'll get into the more in-depth bit, is that like the human brain is capable of analyzing itself in a way that other brains on Earth aren't.
Yeah.
Like mice, and that's the example he uses, are aware, like their world consists of like cheese and cats and holes and mouse traps, but it doesn't consist of having mouse eyes and mouse brains, right?
Yeah.
That's not part of what you need to be a mouse.
Yeah. That line is mice see, but they don't know they have visual cortexes, so they can't correct for optical illusions.
There you go.
I kind of wanted to like call out the fact that like, man, like take it easy on mice. Mice have contributed so much to science.
I mean, this isn't putting them down. This is just, if they were
No, I know, I'm
self-reflective,
just-
it would be kind of a ethical nightmare.
It's just
Yeah.
a thing that jumped into my head where I was like, man, like give mice a break. You know, many like mice have their brains dissected so we
I
can
was-
have cool drugs and whatever.
Yeah, I was going to use squirrels, because squirrels are a lot of the same thing. Or, like, if we're going to go a different route with it, like small bugs, their world is very different than ours in that, like, to them, the surface tension of water counts as a surface to move across, right? But for
Yeah.
us, it's not, because we're too big.
Yeah.
Bugs probably don't really have very much in the way of even thinking about like this is a pond and I need to go over that. It's probably like a lot of just acting
Right.
on instinct.
Yeah,
maybe?
but
I,
it's
I
just
don't.
a lot
I
of
don't think
if-then
bugs
flips.
even know that they exist.
Possibly like mantids and spiders because they're pretty intelligent. But anyway,
Like I assume pretty much all mammals are aware of their own existence at some level, even if they aren't aware of, the fact that they have brains.
I kind of picture it as just like an impulse to keep doing things if you're a fly.
Yeah.
Like, it's not even so much that, like, I want to have kids. It's not, of course, not that complicated, but it's more
poop.
just like, it's not even like a thought of, like, reproduce. It's probably just a thought of, like, do this thing.
Yeah.
And I
Here's
see
a
this,
stimulus.
do that.
Now here's the
Yeah.
the response that it triggers.
That's sort of what I imagine being a small bug is like. But that's not the point. The point is that humans aren't like that.
Yes.
We have eyes, we have brains, but we also know that we have eyes and brains and visual cortices.
and what those are.
Yeah, exactly. And this gives us the ability to not just be aware of things, but to be aware of the mechanics involved of being aware of those things. And that gives you the power to, like in the easiest form, like adjust for optical illusions. But also if you're thinking about whatever brain issues or something, or cognitive issues, you can see the optical illusions there too.
Yeah.
You could see cognitive biases. I think is more like the metaphor that he's using is the sort of the camera that is just sort of recording what's in front of it versus the camera that knows it's a camera and it knows like, okay, I have this lens, I could see this far.
Yeah.
But
It
like,
says a camera cannot take pictures of its own lens. But
Yeah.
we are aware of our lens. We can see the thing that we're seeing the world
we
with.
can take an MRI.
Well,
Yeah,
not just that, but we're aware of our own thought processes.
Yeah, but it's sort of like, I guess, like sees its flaws. I like that as a metaphor because it's like, well, imagine, I don't know, you have a lens that's cracked and you don't know, or not cracked, wow. You can sort of, first of all, know if like, like I need glasses, because like you can compare your own experience with someone else's and be like, oh, everybody else can see the chalkboard, but I can't. But like you could also see the flaws in your reasoning, as well as like the physical flaws, but also the fact that like you can.
Yeah.
It's like the study with the gorilla.
There's a lot of those. You got to be more specific.
The one where it was You're supposed to. There's some basketball players, and like the
Oh, yeah.
study tells
Oh,
you to like count how many times they pass the ball back and forth, and you're counting that. And then like there's a dude in a gorilla suit walks by and like beats his chest like a gorilla, and then walks away. But the people that are doing this for the first time just don't even see the gorilla. Like they get to the end. They show it to a class. I think it's a standard thing. They're like, okay, how many of you saw the gorilla? And they're like, what?
I got to be in one of these, like, as it was done live, having not known about the experiment first. Not live, it was video. I got to see the video of it. And at the end, the teacher asks, all right, how many balls, or how many times did they throw the ball? You know, raise your hand if you think it was 17 or whatever. And how many of you saw the gorilla? It's like, I don't know if any hands went up, but it's like, what do you mean? And then they play the video
Rewind
again.
it, and everybody's like, what the fuck? No,
they're
you
just
just
like-
put that in there. That's
They're just like, don't count the balls this time. And then you watch the gorilla come out, and it's like, how the hell did I miss?
Yeah.
He walked between them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not subtle. It's great because I love every time like new time I see this because it's really fun to be in the group of people like sitting next to the person who's watching the same thing as you but it doesn't see the gorilla.
There's another great version of this if you Google or if you YouTube Richard Weissman color changing card trick. And I won't spoil the surprise in that one, but it's another sort of attention thing there.
I saw that one as well.
Yeah.
I think it was the same time I saw the gorilla video. I was going through a kick of these sort of things.
And you're just like, I'm fucking blind.
Yeah. Dude, the craziest one is when they swap out the person that someone is talking to.
Yeah.
Like they have people carrying a big piece of plywood or something interrupt the two people, and so it blocks the line of sight for a second, and they have the person that they were talking with swapped out with someone else, like a totally different person, different height, different clothes, and the person like doesn't really notice. They just
Yeah.
keep going.
I was helping this person with the directions. This person's still asking for directions. That's all I need to know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I heard that the brain caches a lot of information in the environment because you don't need to keep track of the person you're talking to because that's information that's there in the environment. It's not going to change.
Yeah,
It
you put a lot of
shouldn't
your processing
change.
power into whatever like, okay, what am I going to say next and respond, oh, that's a good question. Let me think about that. Like,
How do you get to the supermarket?
yeah, like, when you have like artwork in your house or something and like you just get to the point where like you don't see it anymore. Or like, when you've sort of memorized the floor plan of your house so you can get up in the middle of the night and it's pitch dark and like you're like, I know where the bathroom is. I'm going to go get the fridge, get a snack. But if you were in a hotel, you'd be totally like lost.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we do like store a lot of things, have a lot of heuristics built in, and that's cool that we can know that and correct for it
Yeah.
sometimes.
That means since we are aware of the flaws in our lens, we can correct for those using second order thinking.
And here, everybody, is the secret of deliberate rationality. This whole process is not magic, and you can understand it. You can understand how you see your shoelaces. You can think about the sort of thinking processes which create beliefs that, or which, I ruined it.
You're going really well there.
Which sort of thinking processes will create beliefs which mirror reality, and which thinking processes will not. Mice can see, but they cannot understand seeing. You can understand seeing, and because of that, you can do things that mice cannot do. Take a moment to marvel at this, for it is indeed marvelous.
Yeah, it's awesome. And like this post to me, it sums up what the whole point of this Bayesian rationality thing is. It's to be able to not only see your own flaws, but correct them as well. And that is, I mean, the name of the site is Less Wrong, right? That's kind of the whole point. This is like the post I would point people to explain what we're trying to do if I could.
This is the point. This is the post that I have pointed people to explain what we're doing.
Oh, cool.
And like the main thing that's, because everyone and their friend has a, self-help thing that they've heard about, right? Or like, this will make your life better in 5 easy steps. And all of them are like, just trust this process, or, some of them have whatever empirical stuff behind it, but like very little of it is, and you can understand everything along the way if you put in the homework. And it's not like, we don't charge you for the homework, right? This isn't a, you get to level 6 by giving us $16,000. This is an understandable process that people can actually do. It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then there was this bit about where he says, one time I went to EFNet's #philosophy chat room to ask, do you believe a nuclear war will occur in the next 20 years? If no, why not? One person answered and said he didn't expect a nuclear war for 100 years because all the players involved in decisions regarding nuclear war are not interested right now. But why extend that for 100 years? Pure hope. Reflecting on the whole thought process, we can see why the thought of nuclear war makes the person unhappy, and we can see how his brain therefore rejects the belief. But if you imagine a billion worlds, Everett branches, or Tegmark duplicates, this thought process will not systematically correlate optimists to branches in which no nuclear war occurs. To ask which beliefs make you happy is to turn inward, not outward. It tells you something about yourself, but it's not evidence entangled with the environment. And the last couple of sequences we did had to talk about this idea of entanglement with reality. I like that a lot. I have nothing against happiness, but it should follow from your picture of the world rather than tampering with the mental paintbrushes. And so that's another example of like not just, sort of seeing the flaws in terms of these physical things, but also you can see like where your thought processes can be altered by things like emotions about the thing. I mean, if everybody had the mental process of, oh man, nuclear war sure is scary to think about.
So let's not do that.
So we're probably not going to have another nuclear war for a long time. That like, you want to be able to, that's another like point in favor of truth seeking and rationality, in my opinion. I've always been, I don't know, I remember like I was in like a philosophy class, or it was a literature class in college, and I remember there's this thing that came up about, I think it was like vaguely related to the book we were reading, but the teacher started talking about like my religious grandmother, I'm not going to like go to her deathbed and like tell her that I'm an atheist, because like that would, what would the point of that be? And I'm just like,
that's why you got to tell her now.
I was kind of like, but like I feel like I value the truth, and I had to like I don't know, like explain to the class then, because we started having this debate about that, like, well, why would you disillusion people from their beliefs if it makes them happy? And I was like, but what if you need to know the truth so you can like fix something, like the delusion about, like it's a better example, I think, Stephen, the thing you've talked about before about suspecting you have cancer and then being like, that sucks to think about, I'm just gonna be like, nah, I don't think that.
There's
Like,
actually a good example of this. My wife and I we went and donated blood last week, and she was sick like a month ago or more. I have no idea. Time is fuzzy now. Sometime I think in October, for like a couple of days. And because she works around people in the medical industry that have COVID all the time, it was a very reasonable guess that that's what it was, even though presented like non-typically. So she thought, hey, maybe I had it. And I was like, well, that'd be awesome if you had it. Then you've got the antibodies and you don't have to worry about it anymore. How fucking awesome would that be? And so like, we could have just operated under that nice, happy thought, right? Mm-hmm. Instead, what you can do when you donate blood in today's day and age is you can ask them, or you can go to the whatever web portal when they upload your results, give you your blood type, which she also didn't know. We have the same blood type, which is cool. Oh. But she also doesn't have COVID antibodies. Oh. And so, like, that sucks. And yet, that we're already living in a world where she didn't have them. Now we just know that, and we're actually better off, right?
Yeah.
So it is it's a bummer to be disenfranchised if there's something you can do about it. If you're going to go for the hyper-constrained deathbed thing where they've got 30 minutes left, are you going to try and talk them out of their religion? I probably wouldn't waste my breath on that.
Now I would have also agreed with that, but at the time that was when I was like...
Me too. I went through
the new atheism.
I went through the exact same phase, yeah. I moved away from that when realizing that, yeah, okay, if we're going to paint it that constrained, sure. If they've got 5 years left and getting them, persuading them to sign up for chronics is a real option, I would actually think it worthwhile. If they're like, no, I'm going to go to heaven, it'll be fine. It's like, yeah, but what if you're not? Like, if there's time to have that conversation and have it go anywhere, I think that'd be valuable. But if there's literally not, then forget it, right?
Well, can you just come out to her without trying to, deconvert her?
Like because thought experiment, or what, I don't know if it was a thought experiment, but like it was just about the teacher like telling her grandmother, like, actually I've like deconverted, I'm an atheist.
I don't think I'd bum my dying relative out in their last 30 minutes. I would just steer the conversation towards happy
but like
shit.
the thing that I said though
things to do in the last half hour of your life.
Yeah.
I still don't know how I feel about this, where like, because that gets into the subject we had about lying, which is sort of getting off topic of the thing, but like it's like I sort of feel like I would prefer, if this person's close to you, that they like know like true facts about who you are and what's going on with you.
Right. I was gonna say, if this is a grandma that you see, for 30 minutes once a year at a holiday, then whatever. But like, if this is someone you interact with a lot, you gotta be in the closet constantly around them, and that's a huge stress, and it's basically lying to them. And I don't like being in the closet in general about things, especially if it's something that might, come up and be important in some way.
Yeah, another thing I sort of realized is that, like, I guess I was like carrying around distress about not being out as trans to my parents, and I didn't really think about it that way though. But like when I did, I realized I felt this like massive amount of relief, and then they felt distressed, and it was kind of like, so you transfer the distress from you to them, and now it's their thing to deal with, and that's kind of how it should be, I think. And that's the only way you can kind of get rid of that stress or tension. because like each person has to work their way through it, and that's one of those like, hey, it is how it is, deal with it.
Yeah.
I guess, I don't know. I mean, like, this is going kind of out into left field. I just wanted to point out that there was 2 footnotes in this, and I'm trying to scroll back up. Okay, the one that was after he's talking about, yeah, imagine a billion worlds, Everett branches, Tegmark duplicates. This thought process won't systematically correlate optimists to branches in which no nuclear war occurs. There's a footnote, if you scroll down to the bottom. Some clever fellow's bound to say, but since I have hope, I'll work a little harder at my job, pump up the global economy, and thus help to prevent countries from sliding into the angry and hopeless state where nuclear war is a possibility. So the 2 events are related after all. At this point, we have to drag in Bayes' theorem and measure the relationship quantitatively. Your optimistic nature cannot have that large of an effect on the world. It cannot, of itself, decrease the probability of nuclear war by 20%, or however much your optimistic nature shifted your beliefs. Shifting your beliefs by a large amount due to an event that only slightly increases your chances of being right will still mess up your mapping.
Which I think takes us nicely into the next post.
Yeah.
Yep.
What's fun about it, and this will kind of lead us into the next post, is I remember a few months ago I was talking with somebody who kind of denied that it was possible to have like a Bayesian prior that wasn't given to you as like a 6-sided die, your odds of getting 1 or 1 in 6. Like, if it was anything more complicated than that, they're like, you're just making it up and it doesn't mean anything. And yet, like, yes, you're making it up, and yet, just take the example of nuclear war. I don't know what the odds of nuclear war are in the next 20 years. I don't even have a guess. And yet, there are things that could make my estimate of it go up, right? I mean, we've got a month left of Trump. If he starts talking about how big his red button is again, like he did when he first got into office, and I don't know, metaphorically waving his dick around, I don't know what my odds are, but my odds would go up, right?
Do you think your odds are gone up or down now that the Israelis, allegedly the Israelis, assassinated that Iranian nuclear scientist guy? Because like on the one hand, it's going to be harder for Iran to get nukes, but on the other hand, this could lead to war, which could possibly spiral into more things, you know, more powers getting drawn into conflict, which could lead to nukes being exchanged.
I would ask the wisdom of crowds. Is anybody betting on this on one of the big prediction market?
Who's
websites?
betting on there being a nuclear war in the next 20 years? Like, what do you expect to make money on that?
I think that's one of those, like, you win.
You get to say, I was
If you
right,
don't-
and then you get incinerated.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I would trust the wisdom of crowds on that. I would be more interested in people who know a lot about the
Well,
Middle
apparently-
East political situation.
Yeah.
And I don't, so.
No, there's the whole thing where people can outperform experts after a certain critical mass is reached.
Did we talk about that on this show? Because I feel like we did.
Probably. That's
Or maybe we talked about it in Discord at
one of
some
those
point.
key.
Yeah, I
Rationalist
believe
things.
we may have done it during our episode on Metaculus. Is that the name of the website?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I thought this was recently, because there was just a few months ago an episode of Skeptoid about wisdom of crowds.
Okay.
Sorry for anyone who's curious to that, which is a lot of fun, and it's 12 minutes.
I mean, I like the betting markets because the people who think they have more information will bet more money, so they will be given more weight. And also, the people who are really wrong with their estimates eventually go broke and leave the
Yep.
markets. But if it was just like everybody betting, I kind of feel the noise. I know the idea is that the noise is random in all directions, so cancels itself out. But I'm not sure how likely that actually is in practice. I think there is systematic bias to some things.
Totally. As far as this goes, I have no idea. I don't know anything about the politics over there to the granular level to know whether or not this will likely increase the chance of war. My naive guess is that the less people who know how to make nukes, the less likely nuclear war is.
Okay.
But that's probably too simplistic because, you know, they could be pissed off enough to steal or buy a nuke.
Right.
That said, I don't know. I'm not losing sleep over it. So also, I didn't hear about it, so maybe that's why I'm not losing sleep over it. But,
Oh, okay. Yeah, it just happened yesterday.
oh,
I think it was yesterday. Could have been the day before.
something else happened yesterday that I heard about again today. Oh, Governor Polis has COVID.
All right.
Sorry.
It's a bummer, and it's one of those things like the mayor of Denver.
Freaking flying out
yeah.
to celebrate Thanksgiving. That really, really irritates me. You're supposed to, as a leader, like set an example and show that
Well,
you're willing to make sacrifices
he
as
was-
the leader as well.
He was the one telling everybody stay home for Thanksgiving.
Yeah, and then he flies out. I'm like,
Later,
fuck you,
fuckers."
dude.
Doesn't
Yeah.
apply to me.
Really hope he gets COVID.
So there's like I was talking with the people last week about like not getting your haircut as like kind of a signal of I'm very pro-science and liberal and care about COVID and stuff.
Okay.
And it definitely is a signal of that, assuming you were getting haircuts before, right?
Right.
But it's not to say it's merely a signal. Like everything, that's the thing is, if you say, oh, that's signaling, people assume that you just mean like that's just a signal. But like I was thinking, and I didn't put it this way to the people I was talking with because I was time constrained and I didn't think of it this way. But like, there's no way that like, what's his name, Seth Meyer or Stephen Colbert can't safely get a haircut right now, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's that we're most of a year into this, and I'm pretty sure if they wanted to, they could carefully get a haircut.
Oh, have they been growing their hair out?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And so because it's a nice signal of like I'm taking
Solidarity.
it very careful, and like that said, that's good. We need those people. It just like that's just, I don't know why that came to my mind because we were talking about Governor Polis and stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, updating on priors is kind of the next information or the next post here. And so how much evidence does it take? And it runs through the chief example it uses is a lottery example where the odds of winning are, watch me fuck this up, 1 in 131,115,985. Hey, I did it. So I'm not going to say that every time because I think that number is used maybe 15 times in this post.
Why? Because you said in the podcast they read it out in its entirety every time.
Yeah.
Just say the big number when it comes out.
I mean, I would probably read it out the first time, but after that, you could just shorten it to 1 in 131 million.
Or
Well, but that's not.
the big number.
But the math gets much more
probability.
granular than that. So yeah. In any case, the gist is like, so if I buy a ticket, what are the odds of me winning? It's 1 in 100 something million, right? But so how much information would I need to know that I've got a winning ticket here? And so it gives. I don't know. This is one of the ones where I wouldn't praise it for like
Brevity.
word count to information delivery. It makes an important point though. It just does it in a way that I think because Yudkowsky is a mathematician that he really appreciates that I.
He's showing his work in this one, which
Right.
I think there's a nice ratio, I guess, in the sequences of. Well, yeah, most of them I think do tend towards the layperson friendly, brief, intuitive format. There's a few where he does start throwing math at you. I think those are good to have in there too, because it's the whole here's the thing I'm trying to say, and then here's the proof, I guess.
Right, and that's valuable to have. So it's not just all air, right? But I like it. It kind of sums it up at the end here. It says, in general, the rules for weighing how much evidence it takes follow a similar pattern. The larger the space of possibilities in which the hypothesis lies, or the more unlikely the hypothesis seems a priori compared to its neighbors, the more confident you wish to be, the more evidence you need. And like simplistically, big claims require lots of evidence.
Or to win the lottery, you need evidence selective enough to visibly favor one combination over the big number alternatives.
Right. And so, like, of course, you can still believe on inadequate evidence if that's your whim, but you'll not be able to believe accurately. It's like trying to drive your car without fuel because you don't believe in the fuddy-duddy concept that it ought to take fuel to go places. Wouldn't it be so much more fun and so much less expensive if we just decided to repeal the law that cars needed fuel? Well, you can try. You can even shut your eyes and pretend the car is moving. But to really arrive at accurate beliefs requires evidence fuel, and the further you want to go, the more fuel you need.
Yeah.
That's my kind of analogy.
Yeah.
I was always more a fan of the one where it's like, I don't know, people that talk about sort of having, what is that word, like postmodern people that are just like, well, we can't really know anything.
Oh my God. I hate
I'm like,
those
okay,
people.
I mean, like,
Are you thinking postmodernism in general or solipsism specifically?
I'm not exactly sure what the distinction.
But solipsism is the belief that actually you cannot prove anything except for the fact that you are conscious. Like literally everything else could be a dream, or you could be in the Matrix. There might not be other people. Everyone else may be zombies that say that they, have thoughts, but they don't really. It's like solipsism is just the complete denial of reality, and I just refuse to have conversations with people like that because there's literally nothing you can say to someone like that.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say you could go jump off a cliff, and I guarantee that gravity will do its thing every time.
I mean, they will certainly think that they have fallen and broken their legs or died, but
The point being that people who you're
gonna
still
do it anyway.
walking around making choices based on evidence.
yeah,
Because
that's the thing that really annoys me about them.
That's how
Yeah.
life works. It's like you don't go to the store just by closing your eyes and wishing. You take the route that you took, similar to the one you took last time or whatever. You have to make a detour. But the point is, you know where the store is. You know where your house is.
Mm-hmm.
You take turns in such a way that will reliably get you there. You don't just roll a die or flip a coin at every intersection because it doesn't matter which way you go.
Yeah.
Like their entire lives operate on logic and consistency of reality. And then for certain things, usually religious exceptions, they pretend like, oh no, I don't actually run that way. It's like you definitely do.
Yeah. But like you only get to be like woo woo about the things that you can't prove with evidence.
Yeah.
Right.
Like that. I kind of like that. They're getting off topic again, but I was just gonna like talk about how the world that like religion gets to encompass is shrinking like more and more.
Mm-hmm.
The more that we learn via science.
Yeah.
Anyway, so was there more in here?
I think that was basically it. You definitely need
It's very long.
evidence fuel to arrive at accurate beliefs.
Yeah. I guess it's not this one too, but I was scrolling to the bottom to see. I remember there was, when I was like first, I had gotten into methods of rationality, and then I started reading the sequences, just like the ones that sort of linked to it or correlated. But I remember one, it apparently wasn't this post, but like they were talking about Bayesian probability and making predictions based on it, and somebody in the comments or like someone that Elios knew was like, well, where are you getting your priors? And he's like, well, they sell them at Kmart or something like that. I just remember that like for some reason that cracked me up and stuck in my head like for a while, and I don't know where I read that.
All right.
Anyway.
Are we done with the sequences then?
Yes,
So,
I was just
yeah.
trying to find. You mentioned something about the shrinking scope of what like people get from their religion / Bible.
Mm-hmm.
There was a thread yesterday on Ask Reddit. What is your favorite sex scene in the Bible? And
Oh God.
someone I just liked how like they get into describing what this was, and someone just put like in that kind of I think they call it sponge casing where it goes up and down.
Okay.
And it's like Judeo-Christian values, and it's and it sounds like it's being mean, but it was talking about well, it was the top response on that thread, and you're welcome to Google it. But well, all right. What was your favorite sex scene in the Bible? That one where the two sisters get their dad drunk. Their mother is still salty about it.
Oh, I just got because it's Lot's wife.
Yeah.
God damn it.
I like those things. The like the bad movie summaries are the same kind of thing where it subverts the way you remember the story, but it's accurate.
Yeah, there was that one. What was Lord of the Rings? Like two short people go throw a piece of jewelry into a volcano or something.
I liked my favorite one was the I think this may have been the first one that kicked it off, the Wizard of Oz one. A girl arrives in a strange land, kills the first person she sees, then teams up with 3 strangers to kill again.
There was this like similar thing where it was the explain your job badly challenge.
Yeah.
I'm trying to look for some examples.
It's good to find good ones because, like, people will link that on Facebook, and then everyone tries to explain
Yeah,
their own job
like
badly,
I'm looking
but
at
they
it now,
don't
and
do
I'm
it
like,
very
oh,
well.
none of these are funny.
Yeah, you got to find an actual like comedian, good, smart thinking brain person. We try to make the brains work, and we put them on air.
I like this one. Badly explain your job. I put different mixtures of liquids and give them to people. They give me money when my drinks make them feel funny. That one's pretty good.
See, and then they mean bartender, and that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, our posts for next episode are going to be Einstein's arrogance and Occam's razor.
Yay. Yeah, Occam's razor.
Yes,
I mean,
two posts in a row that have a person's name and then a noun after it.
yep.
Okay, shall we go on to our main
Yeah.
topic for today?
Yeah.
Yes.
And our main topic for today was Jace's idea, career
I
hacking.
kind of didn't want to call it career hacking, but now
Okay.
I don't know. I feel like it's one of those like catchy things that explains.
So it is career hacking or it is not career hacking.
Let's call it career hacking. I don't know. I get a little bit like cringe reaction
Whenever
about
the
calling
word
things hacking.
yeah.
But like it's
Jinx.
memorable. So yeah, I don't know. We haven't really talked about careers, jobs, and I kind of like wasn't sure going into it this time. Where I was like a lot more excited about it when I was like actively doing cool job stuff, and like right now I'm just unemployed and I'm doing a coding boot camp though. So
Was that started already?
yeah,
Hell yes.
but like kind of want to talk about it, see if I could get re-excited about it, or maybe get some other people excited.
All right,
I
we'll
wanted
shoot
to
us
talk
off.
about sort of alternatives to the like classic sort of patterns people have about getting jobs.
Mm.
And just sort of the idea of like rationalists and careers in general.
I'm also curious what the average career, like the average path that people take to get jobs is, because that was part of what kept me from finding a real job for 4 years after graduating college was like, or however many years it was. I had no idea what people did to get real jobs.
So, l- tell us about your experience. You graduated college and then.
Uh, my then girlfriend was already driving to and from Denver. I went to CSU, and so she was driving to and from for her job. Actually, this is a great story on her part too. Undergrad in social work at CSU, master's of social work at Columbia University, and an advanced standing program that took 10 months. She comes back with a master's degree from an Ivy League school. Took her 10 months to find a job, and mainly that's because everywhere within I don't know, 30 miles of Fort Collins is saturated, like every entry level job is saturated by interns and people who are going to school for the undergrad stuff. Okay. And someone wants to hire anybody who seems like overeducated, but, you know, for an entry level position. Yeah.
Yeah.
So she ended up finally getting a job in Denver, was driving round trip for 6 weeks. I graduated on a Saturday. We moved up that Monday, which was awesome. So she had like her 90-minute drive to work and her 5-minute drive home that day. Mm-hmm. And what did I do? I floated for a few weeks, got a job as a teller for 6 months that I hated.
I remember how much you despised that.
And this was after you graduated?
Yeah.
What was your major?
Psychology.
Right, okay.
I wouldn't recommend it if you're not doing anything more with your degree. I got into it initially with this, like, I don't know, long-term-ish plan, and realized 2 months in that was never going to do anything. So I was like, well, I might as well finish, because what are you doing with your life, Steven? Oh, I'm in school is a much better answer than nothing.
Right.
And that was actually the majority of the reason I went to school.
Mm-hmm.
I got an associate's degree for cheap because I went to a community college, and then after that I wasn't doing anything. So yeah, it was seriously bumping into somebody I knew from high school, and they're like, "Oh, I thought you'd be doing something like more exciting," and I'm like, "That's a good point. I need to pretend like I'm doing something," and so I'm back to school.
I get the feeling that's a lot of people kind of, I mean, that's why I ended up in college too. It's just like, this is what everyone's supposed to do, right?
Yeah.
And I like, that is the opposite of hacking, when you are just doing the exact same thing everyone else is doing because you're supposed to and you don't actually have any sort of plan.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, there isn't really, I mean, I think that I'm glad to see that I think it is becoming a lot more like people are becoming more aware of the fact that the standard idea of, you know, you go to school, you go to college, then you get a job, and then you get promotions, and eventually you retire at the same company with your, you know.
Oh God, that hasn't been a thing since the 50s.
Yeah.
That's how that's kind of how maybe our parents' generation did it.
Yeah.
Like my dad has been at his job for 40 years, and like I think that's what people think of now, and that's just not how jobs work anymore. Even I think across most industries. My industry is particularly weird there, where like if you've been there 2 years, you're like, oh my God, you've been here for ages.
But a lot of jobs are getting to be like that,
Yeah.
where, I mean, one of the things you brought up is that it is more profitable for companies to hire, or not even hire, maybe they're not even paying them, but to have a bunch of interns rather than, you know, having to hire some employees.
Yeah,
No, go ahead.
based on Rachel's experience, like, it seems like it is better to have the experience working for a company than to have a degree, right?
Probably.
It depends.
It depends. I think that the degree got her through the door and probably kept bigger doors open for further job jumps.
Mm-hmm.
But she's been at 4 or 5 places since 2014.
Right.
So like she's
But
she's
people
moving
that
at
were
a rate like I'm moving at.
The
Like,
people that were interning had a much easier job getting in.
Oh, of
even
course.
though they didn't have Ivy League master's degrees.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, she had no trouble getting work study experience, although I think the school helped set that up.
Okay.
But they might even just say, go find an internship. And she had 2 of those across her education. So,
Yeah.
like, if you're willing to work for free or next to free, people are happy to open the door for you.
But that sucks.
But yeah, if you want
That's a
to pay your
strategy.
rent off what you're making to do very important work, then yeah, people are much less inclined to open the door for you. But just to finish off my career thing, I can skip a couple years because it was just random jobs. And then a friend asked me, like, why aren't you a programmer? And I said, well, I don't think I can do that. Isn't that the kind of weird magic knowledge you need to be like coding your own game since you're in diapers to do? And he's like, hell no. And he sent me a book that I've talked about before called Automate the Boring Stuff, which isn't like the best Python introduction that I've come across, but it is a great like introduction to programming if you have no idea what anything is. And you're like, oh, like, I mean, I can show anybody a simple Python function and it reads like English. And I'm like, oh, you're not writing in machine code like I've seen in the movies. This doesn't look like Matrix code. You're writing basically words. And like this is so it's really it was this light switch moment for me that like, oh, this is learnable by any adult who wants to put in some effort. Like this isn't some arcane magic knowledge. And the only thing that's remotely career hacking there is that at the time of considering, all right, well now I want to do this. Do I want to go to a university and go back to school? Probably spend at least 2 years because I've already got all my, what do you call them, core credits or something out of the way. Or do I want to do this faster and more cost effectively? And I mean, when you put it that way, the answer was obvious. So I did a boot camp instead. It was also the majority opinion across the programmers that I knew that I asked. There's always trade-offs, right? So like on the plus side, I was able to concentrate, I think, about 3 years worth of hours that you would get at a school into 19 weeks. Because it was 10 hours or about 9 hours a day, 5 days a week. Rather than, I mean, how many hours do you do if you're doing 18 credits? It's like 12.
It's hard to say because you have, the, 2 classes a week at 2 to 3 hours per class for the lecture, but then they give you so much fucking homework.
Right, but this also had homework stuff in it too. Like this was a full-time commitment that was 50-something hours a week.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, there's a trade-off, but like if I'm going to be just doing homework for 2/3 of the time, why am I paying a university $15,000 a semester to do it?
You're paying for the name.
Right, so fuck that. I paid a boot camp $15,000 to do it in 19 weeks, and the other main perk there was that let's see, I talked about the contact hours. I guess the cost was way less too. The main downside is that it was intensely full-time, and so like holding down another job at the same time would have been impossible.
Right.
Not merely hard. If you had another job, there was no way you could make this particular program work. There are tons of boot camps that are part-time.
You need enough money to live for 19 weeks on your savings, or have like parents or someone be able to house and feed you for that time.
Yeah, I borrowed money, and the other thing with that is, I mean, a lot of them will do lending and stuff too. So I mean, taking out a loan would be a drag and it's scary, but the cool thing is that at the end of it, for me, I was able to.
Are cheaper than like a college degree, though.
Yeah,
yes.
You're taking out a loan for a college degree too.
That's true, and but I think the loan. The track to getting a loan there is more intuitive for people because that road is laid out with giant signs over it so everyone can find it. Please take out a loan with us.
It's so weird that the student loan feels different from just a regular loan that you would get for a boot camp. Like this isn't a real debt, it's a student loan.
Everyone gets this one.
Isn't it insane to think about? It's like, oh yeah, sure, I'm taking out $60,000 in debt, but everyone's doing that, and
that's what you do.
Yeah. And, sure, this is the only kind of debt that won't be absolved if I say, I don't know, lose my house and go bankrupt.
Yeah.
But in any case, all that nonsense aside, I don't know, I'm trying to remember exact numbers, but without exact numbers, the point is that I'm making about exactly twice as much when I got my first job out of boot camp than I was at my job before boot camp. And so, like, paying off that money was super easy, barely an inconvenience, because I was subsisting previously on half that amount of money.
Yeah.
And so now that I had twice that amount, paying that back was quick and easy.
Yeah, you still had, you had all the money you had before to live off of, plus all this extra money now. It's like you had 2 Stevens working, but only the expenses of 1 Steven.
Exactly. So that was it was hardly like an original track to make my own kind of, to carve out my own path, because this was an existing program and all that sort of stuff. But it was off the beaten path of, like, I don't know, anything our parents would have done, right? And I think that this is going to be more and more the way of the future, especially when I learned that Jace did one for
clinical research.
Clinical research. I knew I was going to say clinic, or like, I don't know, medical data or something. I knew I had it wrong. The fact that there's boot camps for clinical research tell me that there's probably these things for all kinds of careers.
I
think there aren't actually, like.
Well, there will be in 10 years.
I would be really happy if there were.
I bet in 10 years there'll be these things for everything, just because
it feels like the university system is kind of breaking down.
Yeah, because why would I pay $60,000 to learn how to work on cars if I have to also spend $30,000 reading a bunch of books I don't want to read, and I don't know, I'm trying to think of the other pointless classes I took. I don't know, all this random bullshit, right? Why do I need to take 3 English classes if I'm going to be working on cars? Why can't I just go somewhere and learn how to work on cars? Like, that's what I want to do.
And if you go, like, get a job as a mechanic, a lot of places have entry-level jobs with paid training.
See? So, I think that sort of option will open up for lots of career paths. I think that they do things like this. I mean, I think trades are already kind of maybe in that
Yeah, trades
the domain.
are more like that, but they're also kind of opaque in the sense that, like, I remember when I was a kid, I kind of occasionally would think about, oh, maybe like, what do you do to get into trades? Do you go to like technical school? Do you have to know somebody? Like, dude, how do you become an apprentice? I had no idea. I was like, it would have been, I've always sort of
I think you
been
do
attracted to
kinda have to
some of the
know
craft
someone.
skills, but yeah, like it's because I was assigned female. My dad didn't want to take me on as a carpentry apprentice.
Really? What a douchebag.
It was kind of douchey. I don't know. I have issues about that. I keep thinking about going into carpentry just to like piss him off, or not piss him off, to get back at him or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like a sort of a petty thing because there's this big billboard right by my apartment that I pass all the time. That's like home builders school. Like, oh, it was. And I think it was one of those like paid training. Like, come learn to become a to build homes with our company. And I just like keep looking at it and I'm like, no, not yet. Maybe someday.
You could do that, or you could just go to like one of those woodworking shops where you pay for like a monthly membership and get really good at making like intricate, ornate tables. And like so, like sometimes you'll come over for whatever Christmas or Thanksgiving or something, and it'd be like the most decadent looking like piece of furniture he's ever seen, and be like, oh yeah, I made that,
Yeah.
and just flex the awesome table out, and that way you don't have to make a whole job out of
And
it.
my dad knows I could do woodworking because I did it with him when I was a kid. I like
But does he know that you can do woodworking better than him? That's the real win.
Well, that's also more of creating art than it is, regular carpentry labor.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
if you eat off of it, you've also made something.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, so I don't know if we all want to just go down the line and tell our career histories. Ineash?
Sure. Well, you started this, so you go now.
Okay.
I feel like Inuyasha's would be shorter. If I might just make a motion to guide this a little bit, I think you should go Inuyasha, and then Jace, you can go, because then you're going to jump off into all the cool ways to do stuff,
Oh, yeah, that's true.
and that way we won't have to ping pong. Plus, I think yours will be very
Shortish.
short. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, like, so I'm not even sure how applicable mine is anymore since I entered the job market in the year 2000.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I know.
Oh wait, I did too, because I started working at 14.
Wait, you started working at 20?
Well, I guess it was 1999.
You entered your career at 20. You were working probably before that.
Oh,
Or
yeah, well,
doing
yes,
stuff,
I've
yeah.
been working
okay.
for many years, but that was when I dropped out of college and actually needed to get a job to pay for my own rent. Yeah. I don't count anything. Like, anything before you have to pay for your own shelter and food doesn't really count yet, in my opinion.
I delivered
I
pizzas
counted
part-time
mine.
through college and paid for my shelter and food through that on like 3 days a week. It was great.
Okay.
Because I lived in the second cheapest apartment complex in the city, so
Nice.
and it showed.
Couldn't have been, like, that bad, though, if you were willing to live there in terms of, like, crime and shit.
I mean, yeah, it was livable.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why I chose the second cheapest one.
Okay. Like, if I think about the cheapest place in Denver, I'm like, I would probably get stabbed there, and I don't know if I want to live
I think
there.
I'm in one of the cheapest places in Denver. You're not gonna get stabbed there though. It's like all Vietnamese.
Oh, okay.
What's your rent, if you don't mind?
It's like, you know what? I'll tell you after because
Okay.
it's terrible. I would have to look it up.
Okay. But yeah, I think there's just a drastic change in how you understand the world once you're responsible for your own continued survival. But no, I joined the workforce just a little bit before I turned 20, and like I said, I dropped out of college,
What were you studying?
computer
before then?
science.
Ah, okay.
Because back then there wasn't real boot camps or anything. If
Yeah.
you wanted to go into programming, you either
You had to
started your
take
own.
a computer science course,
Yeah.
right? Like it wasn't even like you could take JavaScript class. Like you had to like, okay, well the first computer was this, and here's like computing theory.
The,
Yeah.
the test
didn't go
questions are
into-
like, when was Alan Turing born? And
No,
it's-
no, they
it's-
didn't bother with
yeah.
like the history of that
Okay.
stuff, but it was like computing theory and how, the theory behind various algorithms and stuff that I didn't get too much
Stuff
into
that
because,
was
like I
like-
said, I dropped out.
Okay.
It was definitely interesting though. Like it got into deep
Yeah.
level shit.
I was gonna say like it's cool stuff to know, but I think it's
Mm-hmm.
not things that like should be a prerequisite for entering the career. If you're gonna be
Right.
like doing CSS, it's like you don't need to know about the life of Alan Turing. It's not applicable.
or even just like the
Early
how
punch card computers.
yeah, like I mean, knowing how to design a register machine in C sounds super valuable.
Well, like
for-
literally one of my classes was about the various search algorithms and the theory behind which ones were more effective for what kind of searches and why.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah, so that's like more applicable to your actual
It's-
life as if you're going to be a programmer.
Almost. Today, you would just Google, like, hey, this is the kind of data I'm looking to try and grab.
Right.
And you would find the optimal solution on your second click on Stack Overflow.
Yeah.
And so, like...
And this was like, if you want to sort your database, here's your various options, and here's the theory behind why you want to use these options for larger databases, and yeah.
And to be clear, that sort of knowledge is what separates, like, seniors from entry-level people.
Okay.
And so when you come out of a boot camp, unless your boot camp has, like, a specific section for that, you tend to... I should have mentioned this, if you're curious, for computer science. Some breakdown I saw years ago showed that bootcamp grads came out. They tended to be stronger in like their ability to build applications right away, like to sit down at their desk and start coding on week one. But they're weaker in algorithm design and data structures. So like
makes sense.
the sort of stuff that like I don't particularly know, even though I should at this point know exactly what's going on under the hood with like our giant Postgres monolith database that we have, because I don't really need to. But if I wanted to optimize it, like we had one of our seniors do this year, I definitely need to know what's going on there. And so he was able to come in and clean up a bunch of shit and save us actually many thousands of dollars a month, because now we require that much less computing power for it.
Nice.
But with the bootcamp model, you could come out of your bootcamp and start coding immediately in your entry-level position, and if you wanted to become a senior programmer, you could learn that stuff later.
That's what I'm doing.
That kind of degree is overkill for most of the jobs that people actually want to do.
Yeah, I think a lot of jobs, like, you could skip college. You don't need to have as much background knowledge in that. Like, if you're gonna, I guess, like, probably people that read less wrong that are listening to this podcast, at least, are the kind of people that are gonna, like, learn that stuff anyway. Like, if you find a thing interesting and if you're motivated, like, this is a group of people that at least, like, can read long things and absorb, like, complex ideas. So, yeah, I would feel, I guess I could see from an employer's perspective that are like, yeah, I want my employees to have a degree, 'cause, like, so they can have this like depth of knowledge.
You're a lot more valuable to the employer,
Yeah.
but also that takes a lot of time and money, and so you're probably going to want more money as well, which that's the point of the boot camps. The employer can hire you for $60,000 instead of $90,000.
Yeah, it can be beneficial.
But yeah, I dropped out and I went to work as a basically just a kind of a secretary, really. I would crunch some, not even crunch numbers, I would add up lists of numbers for someone else and put them into a database. I would
They
file
would call
papers.
like a clerk.
Yes, I
Okay.
was a desk clerk. I wanted to.
I think a secretary usually handles communications or something. It's like scheduling and stuff.
I would sometimes man the phones when
Yeah.
the actual front person was out. I mean, it was a small company, and all the really low level shit I would get to do.
Was this like the accounting job that you
Uh,
got to later, or was this like
this
a car
was
dealership, or
yeah, no, okay, this was a company that mailed things out to people. Basically, if someone would say like, hey, we have these 10,000 people that we want to mail this thing, can you do it for us? And we were like, sir, yes sir, we
Okay.
will put these umbrellas into this weird package and send them to your people for you.
cool?
Yeah, it was pretty much menial labor on the floor. Anyways, I started out there, and basically I just was bright enough that when other things needed doing, my boss was like, hey, can you do this? And I said, sure. And eventually a guy above me retired, and my boss was...
Wait, you learned things on the job? You
I
didn't have to
learned
go to
things on the
college for
job.
them?
No, I got paid basically shit, like $9.25 an hour.
But like what Steven was saying, I mean, if you got your master's in, probably wouldn't get your master's in shipping weird objects, but like you wouldn't be able to even get that entry level job.
Yeah, no, and that was the thing. Like I got to know the people on my job. They knew me, saw that I was, enthusiastic and energetic and bright, and I could do stuff. Really, my main piece of career hacking advice would be, whenever anyone asks you if you can do something, you say yes. And then you go and you learn how to do it.
Yeah, or like I've done the thing of just asking like, hey, pretty on top of all my job duties now. Are there more things that it would be helpful like for me to learn?
Yeah.
More, like, can I pick up more skills?
Yeah, that works too. I was not that ambitious. I actually, when they offered me the job of the guy, I was like, let me think about it for a day, because that's a bunch more work and responsibility, and I don't know if I want that. But eventually I was like, yeah, fuck it, why not? And from there I took on some of his duties, which included bookkeeping and accounting stuff. And so my next job
That's
was...
how you got into that.
Exactly. Went from there. But it really feels to me like being at a place and knowing people that work there is a huge, big move. So getting into some place, just getting in the door is a great idea, even if it's a really low level thing. Pretty much every job that I found, this would be my other big piece of advice. Pretty much every job I found was from a temp agency or a placement agency.
I was going to mention that.
Which I was replacing someone who either had been fired or,
Like
wasn't working out.
paternity leave or something.
Yeah, exactly. And every single time that I was placed somewhere, within the first week I was there, my boss was like, "Oh my God, you are so much better than the last person." Because oftentimes when you're getting hired from a temp or placement agency, it's because the person behind you sucked really hard, had to be canned, and they need someone on super short notice. They don't have time to go out and interview people. And so so my piece of advice is take over for someone who sucked at their job, and you will look awesome.
I was going to mention temp agencies as a way to go too, because it's one of those that's like, I think off the beaten path. It was off my radar until it wasn't. Mm-hmm. And it paid, I don't know, $3 more an hour than my previous job.
Cool.
And it's like, it was shit work, but like if all I needed was money, it got the job done.
What job was that, Steven?
I worked for 6 weeks or something at Otterbox, the phone case company. They would order all the components of the phone case from China, and then you would assemble them in the order that they came in, and then you put them in the box with a little instruction insert, and it was an assembly line.
Yeah.
It was terrible. It was like 12-hour shifts. It started at, I think it started at noon, and it usually ran until midnight or 2 in the morning.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
it was like that. I remember it was, I think, 15 days with no days off. And like, you were supposed to be allowed to take days off if you wanted or whatever, and the
But it
overtime
was,
was
like,
supposed to be
discouraged.
optional, but it was discouraged to the point where you just were let go because they would find somebody who would be willing to stick around for those hours. But they brought
was
on
it
like,
one of those cases where it's like, oh, you can take days off, but you have to like ask all your coworkers, could someone cover for me on this day?
no,
or something?
it was all 50, like they brought in like 50 people at once.
Okay.
And it was everybody's first thing, and there was, none of that stuff when you start a regular job where like the first week is like onboarding and here's the HR
Yeah.
stuff, because you didn't get any of that. You just came on and you immediately started working. But it was like the only perk of working that many hours was, and for those, like that shift, was that I had no time to spend any of the money. And like my check was about twice as big as it should have been because there was like 30 hours of overtime on it. So
Yeah.
that sucked. I hated that job.
Yeah.
That's right on when my back started going all fucky too, probably from standing for 14 hours a day.
You should go sue them.
Well, yeah, actually it was when I started I got a couple days off because I went to the physical therapist, and they said you need to rest. And the week I came back, I was let go. So,
Oh, shit.
But they don't need a reason to let you go. They just said,
Right.
"Oh, performance." I'm like, "Okay, great.
Yeah.
Fuck you guys. Bye."
So
Yeah.
I guess, yeah, like, it's
Cautionary
really
tales.
hard. Yeah, it's really hard to shine in those sort of mass production, easily replaceable jobs.
Oh yeah, this one wasn't one where they were staffing for a real job.
I don't
Yeah.
think
This
that
was-
it is though. Well, maybe. Sorry, you're still talking.
Oh no, I this one there was nowhere to shine, to grow. This wasn't that kind of job. This was we just got in a gigantic order. We got a product order of some tens or hundreds of thousands of these we need to get done by the end of the summer.
Yeah.
Like, so it wasn't like this was never going to be a job for people.
Yeah, but I was like thinking about. I have a friend who actually moved with me from New Jersey, and he got like let's see. My partner at the time went to the temp agency. I went to the boot camp, and this kid was like, "Hey, you know what? Someone at the Walmart told me that basically they'll hire you on the spot if you go work at FedEx." And I was like, "You sure you could go to the temp agent? Like, I could help you look." And he's just like, "Nah." He paints, so he like was selling his oil paintings for a few $100, but like just needed a job on the side. And so they start you out as like just like a package handler, and you like just unloading hundreds and hundreds of boxes from trucks and putting them on an assembly line. And it was just like brainless work, but just because the people doing that job were people that were just hired on the spot. Like, there a bunch of people were just coming to work drunk, drinking throughout the day, smoking weed in their cars, doing harder drugs, getting in like bar fights, and like, so like just by being a reliable normal human who would just show up to work and move the boxes, my friend like was able to got promoted to being a scanner, and then they got promoted to driving a forklift, and like, so they did manage to like work their way up the chain at that job just by like, not being the normal grade of person who would work at a throwaway job like that.
I mean, most jobs kind of suck, and so most people have crappy attitudes for them. And just, I mean, as someone who has now had to hire people to, like help renovate houses and things like that, just having someone show up when they said they're going to show up and do the job is automatically a win in my
You'd
book.
be surprised.
I'm like, nice.
Yeah.
I love that I can actually I know someone who I can rely on to actually show up and do the thing. Because, like, you know, you set aside the day. You're like, okay, this day the person's going to come in and put the carpet in for me or whatever. And then they don't show up and you're like, well, fuck. Now what do I do? So that, yeah, just being reliable is good. And, you know, people like to work with people that they like to be around, which, you know, it's going to be much harder in the era of COVID to be around people, obviously, but that's not going to last that much longer. And just, like, in general, being personable, not always being a grump. I don't know. I hate to give this sort of advice, like, hey, be nice and, you know, big nice to be around you.
Lecture in our younger.
But if you really
rationalists.
struggle to get along with people, that is a
That's
skill
gonna
you
be
need to
hard.
work on.
Yeah, I mean, people aren't going to want to work with you unless they absolutely need you because of your skills, which that's great if you have that. But I mean, just being personable is such a life hack for everything in life generally.
And being minimally personable for most people isn't that hard. And
How
like I
to
said,
win friends and influence people.
yeah, exactly.
The one book you need to know about that.
And if it is hard, like that is something that's worth putting some XP, you know, time into, right? Like it's worth spending some points to figure out, all right, how do I actually get along with people?
Yeah.
You know,
So much of human power is about groups of people working together, and so being able to do social hacking is huge.
That should,
And
yeah, that's
once-
a different subject.
Yeah,
we could
right,
we
sorry.
could do a social hacking one too. That would probably be really
I don't know if
interesting.
I don't know if I have much to offer there other than like just be nice to people.
I have a
It's
lot to
almost
offer
always
there.
free, and it can get you all the way. Plus, it just feels good.
I'm not sure, like, you absolutely are just really nice and awesome, and I love being around you. And I've been told by others that I'm fun to be around as well. So I don't think we would have much to offer because we naturally just like to be around people and like to be nice. What
We're
we need
already
is
awesome at
someone-
being nice to people. We need to find an asshole. We need to find a
Exactly.
reformed asshole and ask
Yes.
them what their path to success was.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I was saying. I mean, like, I don't think I was an asshole, but I was the autistic kid that couldn't make eye contact or speak above a whisper and didn't know how to do any social interactions, and I had to learn it all
Yeah.
from, like, reading books and practice.
That's actually
trial and
valuable,
error.
though.
Yeah.
Like, so would you? And this isn't supposed to be a leading question, even though it is. Was the effort, and no doubt it was like a struggle to get through the beginning of that effort at the very least. Was that worth the time and energy to get there?
Yeah, it's very much what Anish was saying about it being sort of a life propeller. Like, we are this social species and we need to do social things really to get ahead. It's actually quite hard to be a hermit and to succeed, I think.
In my
Like,
industry, once you
part
get to
of,
the
you know-
top, like once you're really good, you can then afford to be a complete asshole because then you're
does seem to be how it
irreplaceable.
plays
Then
out.
you're Dr. House of
Yes,
computer science.
Exactly. It's like, sure, you guys can fire me because I'm a dick and I don't come to work, but once you do and something breaks, you guys are fucked.
Exactly.
So, well, you know, when I'm 60, if I feel like caring that little, I will.
Mm-hmm.
But for the next 30 years, or God, yeah, 30, that sounds about right. I'll enjoy being nice and collaborating with my team, but
Yeah, just use that as your motivation, you know. Put a smile on your face, walk through the door, be nice, and then, like, just think about when you're old, you're gonna get to do all kinds of shit, apparently.
Keep a list of people to
Yeah.
get revenge on.
No, actually, when I was in that period before school, before starting a real career and just, like, you know, working at various kid jobs, I changed jobs every year just because I was like, I mean, whatever, these are throwaway jobs anyway, so there's not really much point to me staying at the Boardwalk Disney store. I was like, I'm gonna become a model employee. Like, when someone pissed me off, in particular, most of these jobs have some, like, you know, asshole boss or it's a toxic environment. But I was like, I'm gonna become the best fucking person here at selling Disney toys, and then I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna give my 2 weeks notice and be gone, and I'm gonna time it for right when the season's about to pick up, and then they're gonna
Oh, damn.
beg me to stay, and I'm gonna leave.
And then they're going to get a temp.
they'll look
Oh,
up and beg for help, and I'll get to whisper, no.
Yeah.
Nice.
That was part of, like, my motivation that kept me going through shitty high school jobs. But anyway, I'm not sure if you were done your story.
Yeah, I guess the last thing I would say, so I got lucky. I managed to get on the job training and I got paid shit for years, but, you know, I also didn't have any debt, so that was fine. The thing we were talking, you know, pooping on degrees earlier, it has put a hard ceiling on how far I can advance. At this point, if I wanted to get any higher, I would literally need to have a degree, because they're like, we just cannot promote you above this position. It would look too bad to, the people above us. It's a hard requirement. And that, I personally don't give a fuck. I knew that would be an issue when about 10 years ago they were offering me college. Like, we'll pay for 50-60% of your college. Go take night classes. And I was like, no, I'm done with schooling. I am so over it. And I decided not to. And that is fine with my life goals. For other people, they may want to jump on that if it's offered. And other people in general may just want to keep in mind that you might have a hard ceiling like that as well. But I know that's not the case for all industries, like programming, for example.
Yeah, programming is just sort of, a lot of jobs are just prove you can code a thing.
Yeah.
All right, you're hired.
Yeah.
They don't care where you went to school or whether you have a degree or if you're living in your mom's basement. It's like, can you do the job? Yeah, all right. All right, cool.
It does depend a bit on politics.
But it's like harder to test some careers. Like,
yeah.
can you social work? Social work at this person. Okay, you're like, you can't really.
Most jobs, when you're not producing a product, you're more like in the business side of things. The how it looks to others is important. The signaling is a big part of the game.
Well,
and that's where they want the degree to signal.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned social work. I don't think that's the kind of thing you could boot camp. I think that so much of it is soft skills and
Right.
Like it's also a very variable career path. Even if you're doing kind of like a similar thing the whole time. She's worked with basically the same population, the elderly, her whole career. But her job requirements have been so diverse that it's I don't know if you could crunch that into a 15-week program. So some things maybe like, but also that's not so much of like the the kind of trade we were talking about, right? I think it's possible to pick up electrician work, plumbing, mechanics, or mechanical engineering, like cars or computer programming. I think you can pick all that up in 12-15 weeks, enough to get started.
Right.
To get in the door and not kill yourself or your coworkers, if you're paying attention. I think I have a friend who's an electrical engineer. I don't think he went to school for it. He did some sort of outside of school program for it.
Yeah, I think a lot of well, I don't know about electrical engineer, but like an electrician or a plumber, they usually just apprentice.
Maybe it was electrician. I'm not
Like,
sure
and that's
electrical
about
engineer
knowing
is.
somebody, like your dad was a plumber, or
Yeah.
your next door neighbor
I know.
needs some help.
There used to be trade schools. Are they not
There's still trade
around?
schools.
They are.
I feel
okay.
like they. I
I
don't
think
know.
I think the friend I'm thinking of went to a trade school.
yeah.
But in any case, yeah.
I mean, trade schools are kind of like boot camps for the trades.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, that's why I raised him. I think that's the point. Like, if you want to work on a particular thing, you should be able to just study that one thing. I get the idea if you're getting a liberal arts degree to have a very diverse and not necessarily focused core of curriculum that you need to get out of the way just to expose you to everything, right?
Right.
But
It's a good idea to know like basic philosophy.
Totally.
That's the
but
thing, liberal arts
for
degree doesn't
social
teach
work.
you how to do anything.
that's the point. Is like those core credits don't get
Oh,
you
yeah.
anywhere. They're there to make sure that school lasts 4 years.
No, I got a liberal arts degree and I like graduated basically like not really knowing how to do anything practical. I knew lots of theories, but
Right.
it's like, I mean, anyway, I'm
Hopefully
getting
they're
ahead
good
of
ones.
myself.
But yeah, that is me. I have other stuff I'll add later, but for now, let's go on to Jace.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to talk about your writing
Oh,
or your podcasting. I mean,
so okay, I suppose I could. Neither of those pay enough to live off of.
but
But
they're like what you like doing, right?
yeah, exactly. For those things, it's just a matter of, this is a thing I like to do and I want to do. So I'm going to do it. And then after I do it, I look up resources on how to, on the online. God, I don't even know. I guess back in the before times,
man.
people had books
Yeah.
and libraries and stuff. Libraries were like the internet before electricity.
Oh my gosh.
Damn, no wonder people loved librarians and libraries so much. But yeah, if I just did the thing and then I was like, oh, that thing was kind of crappy. Let's see if I can learn how to do it better. And I would search on how to do it better. For the writing specifically, what really helped me is I found an in-person writing group here in Denver that met once a month, and we critiqued each other's stuff. My first year there, I learned so fucking much.
There were critique groups for more things. It would have been
Yeah.
cool to have I have no idea how that would have worked, like a clinical research critique group.
Like, it won't
like-
make you a genius or anything, but the things you learn, the basic core stuff you learn in the first year is just
It's hard getting
mind-blowing.
honest feedback from people.
Yeah.
I had a hard time with that with art. like where people will be like, "Oh man, that looks great," and you're like, I don't know, like I feel like there's might be something I could improve about. No, man, I can't even draw a stick figure. It's awesome, like because people are so used to, I guess, like art being, well, it's like creative expression, so it could look like whatever you want. It doesn't matter. There's no rules, and I'm just like, no, there's good art and bad art. Like,
Yeah. There's the problem that people don't want to hurt your feelings,
Yeah.
so they won't say bad things. And also just people who aren't doing art don't necessarily know what's good or what's bad.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't join a critique group of regular people because, well, sorry, of non-writers.
yeah, like if you're in like a dance critique group or something.
Yeah,
But,
like
like,
I wouldn't know what to say to anyone.
I don't know. They're dancing. Looks good to me.
You are not casting spells very well. Do more finger flailing.
Yeah. So, trying to think.
So you've had like
I
what?
did a
5
lot
or
of
6 different
jobs.
careers, right?
Yeah.
I am constantly, when I hear what you've been doing with your life, I'm like, holy crap!
Which is funny
Jace
because
is like 3 or 4 different people.
I feel like I'm like, yeah, I know.
Because you did game design, you did house renovation, you did art, you did
Soap making.
soap making, you
As
did
a sous
this
chef.
bio research.
Yeah.
That's
So I've always had the problem of being a person with lots of interests, and probably I think a lot of people in this community can relate to that. And
for anyone who doesn't know, Jace is the person that created our Bayesian conspiracy logo,
Hell yeah.
which we have an announcement about at the end of the episode.
Oh yeah.
Gotta remember to say that.
that's your spoiler
Yes.
for that. So yeah, I guess I started working when I was 14, which like the legal age was 16, but it was just, my parents being like, we started working when we were young, like kicking you out of the house. Yeah, go get a job. And
I don't think there's any lower limit to when your parents can put you to work.
well, I wasn't working for them.
Oh,
So
okay.
they like actually, since I lived near the Ocean City Boardwalk in New Jersey, turns out that you can get lots of jobs under the table. In fact, I think a lot of the economy is based on questionably legal immigrants and like underage kids. That's a great combination.
You were helping to steal the jobs of hardworking Americans, Jace.
I probably was.
A worthy endeavor for anybody.
Yes.
So I sort of, my like introduction to jobs was that sort of getting a different job every year and not feeling super attached to it. So I think that actually helped me learn, well, the lesson my dad wanted to teach. And I think this is funny because I almost feel like I hated it at the time, but now I'm kind of like, would I do that to my kid? Like maybe it was kind of valuable. Was my dad's like, okay, you're gonna go work at like as a cashier or like as a busboy, as like a whatever, like and then you're, what that's going to teach you is that like you should stay at school because you don't want to do that for the rest of your life. And like I think that that's kind of an elitist point of view, like from the perspective of the person who does work forever at the deli. But like, and like, I don't know, maybe they love it there. That's, don't judge them. But like at the same time, I think it was helpful to kind of see behind the scenes of just like, here's what this job looks like. Being a busboy, you see what it looks like. You learn what goes on in a restaurant.
I think that's valuable if someone like needs perspective, which I think most people do. Like if you ever worked a service industry job, you have to be a special kind of asshole to ever be mean to people in the service industry
Yeah.
again. Like if you've ever, I don't know, ordered fast food and you're like, oh, I worked at McDonald's for some weeks when I was a teenager too. You ever wonder why your thing that you asked without pickles comes with pickles on it? It's because the person making it made 1,000 of them with pickles already today, because that's how they usually come, and they're not engaged cognitively enough to raise
They
conscious
didn't leave your
awareness.
pickles off as like a conscious attack on you specifically.
Right. They're just on autopilot because that's exactly
Yeah.
what these kinds of minutia jobs require out of the
The world will be a
employees.
better place if I think you know how they have like mandatory years of military service in some countries. Like I feel like mandatory like just working in like basic retail like service jobs for kids would probably like just help people be a lot kind of more appreciative. But it was like also like working at the Disney store. That was my next door neighbor's mom's store.
Oh.
Which was how I,
So
got
you screwed
hired
over
into
your
the
next
table.
door neighbor's mom?
No, she wasn't. She was younger than me, so and she didn't start working. Anyway, I don't know what was going on there. But
Did you actually quit the Disney store at the height of their season?
yep,
Okay.
Oh, nice.
it wasn't actually okay. This is like it wasn't actually even a Disney store. It was called Boardwalk Characters, and there was no licensing for any of this stuff. So it was like I think actual Disney stores only sell Disney like branded character products, and no other stores can sell them unless they get the Disney licensed merch. But like this was basically a store that sold like bootleg Disney stuff, and the boardwalk does that. There's like all these people selling balloons shaped like SpongeBob or ice creams that are like various superheroes. None of them got the licensing, and it's kind of this unspoken agreement, I guess, that none of the businesses rat each other out about that. The result is that you get to see some really janky like costumed character that like looks like a really cheap Chinese knockoff SpongeBob that's just like a little off. It's so terrifying.
There's a great subreddit called Crappy Off Brands where I see these things all the time.
That's one of the, if you ever end up in New Jersey and you go to the Ocean City Boardwalk, that's like kind of one of the fun things to do, is to just keep an eye out for all the like weird janky bootleg things. I had no idea what I wanted to do. My experience was I have a sister who's 1 year younger than me, and she was always like super conscientious, super moralistic, and always seemed to be on top of like she knew like when she was a little kid, like she was like, I'm gonna be a pediatric nurse because I love babies and taking care of them. And what are you gonna be? And I was like, astronaut, ballerina, race car driver. Like I don't know.
The first ballerina on the moon.
Yeah. I think that like, but so they don't really expose you to many careers in high school, or at least I wasn't like really exposed to careers at all. Like that we did have like shop class, and we had home ec, but it was really, I don't know, they tried to do stuff with it too much. And I think they got rid of it like the year after I graduated. But like I think the idea behind the liberal arts degree, and it's an idea that like I can kind of get behind and understand, like it is that exposure to different things, but you can get the same exposure to like different jobs by working at different jobs. I think I'm just like, as we're having this like discussion on the podcast, I'm realizing that I think I'm a proponent of like sort of propelling, like I do think you probably could boot camp everything if you were clever about it. I was thinking about like social work. It's like,
were you a librarian for a while?
Yeah.
How did you get into that?
That's actually like one of the main examples of career hacking that I like the first time I kind of did it, I guess.
Because I hear you need like all sorts of degrees to be a librarian.
It's very competitive. It's like it's a highly desired job. It starts to pay pretty well. Like librarian pays pretty well, but like head librarian or director, like they start getting pretty good salaries. I could just jump to that, I guess. I don't have to tell my story in order. I could Tarantino it. Yeah. No, it doesn't make as much sense to go out of order now that I'm thinking about it. Yeah, like bunch of, kid jobs. Went to college because that's what you do. And it's kind of funny. There were like the reasons that I had for going to college were, okay, I don't know what I want to do with my life. So that it was just sort of extending the period that I was in school, for one. There was the feeling of, it felt like morally superior. I don't know, like, more, not morally superior, but like more,
high status.
Well, not even high status, like, I guess, ambitious, like, meh. It felt like the right thing to do. That like people would be proud of me, and like if I went to college, and disappointed if I didn't. Neither of my parents had college degrees, and I was the oldest kid, so it was like sort of.
I do think that going to college because you don't know what else to do is probably the worst reason. Like if you have a plan, like you want to be a psychiatrist, so you're going into med school or whatever, that's good. Then do that. But like, I mean, I did the same thing. Like I don't know. I guess I'll program computers, and going to college is what you do. And that was just no.
Yeah. I mean, like
I'm really glad I dropped out, to be honest.
I had some interests. I had a lot of interest, but like I didn't have any. Like my sister always had her. I know exactly like where I'm gonna go, what my plan is. She like was super organized about taking the SATs and looking for these colleges that are good. I did not do any of that. I just found school really easy, and I was like. I don't know. I was a shitty student in the sense, like not in the sense that I got bad grades, but that I like didn't really try hard. I was putting all of my like energy into like playing MMOs or doing whatever interest I had on the side, and kind of just like doing enough school to pass and not make my parents angry. But then like I remember I had a guidance, everybody had to like schedule time with the guidance counselor at some point to talk about where you like what you were going to do and receive some counseling. And I remember the guidance counselor like looked at, you know, my, I guess, like scholastic history, whatever they have, and was like, yeah, it seems like you should probably go to community college. I took personal offense to that because I was, and I think she was like actually saying like, I don't know, you don't seem like focused or disciplined enough, or like getting good enough grades to get into like a university, like you should go to this. And I wish I hadn't had that reaction, because if I could go back and do it over, it would have made a lot more sense to go to a community college, and just sort of continue doing the thing of exploring and seeing what I wanted to do. I remember some kids did that and they were like, yeah, you know, you just transfer your credits over to the school that you end up going to. And some other kids were like, I'm going to take a year off, travel the world, or like, I'm going to take a year off and just work and try to like think about it. And for some reason, none of those like options felt like I was allowed to take them. Like, I guess I sort of grew up, or like the culture around me was very much about like, yeah, like, you know, being decisive, doing the right things, following the path. And I was like, I don't have a path. Like, I'm good at, my thing was like, I'm good at drawing and I like biology, and like nature and stuff. And I was like, so I'm probably going to do something like that. And that was the thing I would tell people after, like, you know, I was done saying like paleontologist, whatever.
So how did you get a job once you were out?
Well, I continued, I went to college for 5 years, and took classes more slowly so I could work on the side. And my dad and I had an agreement where I'd pay half, he'd pay half.
Mm-hmm.
So between the two of us, I did not have debt. And I was also just still working through college and working that was when I did the soap company. And that was pretty cool because that has like the crafty thing that I like.
So hold on, you can't just say that was when I did the soap company.
Oh.
You like started your own soap company,
I did not
right?
start it. No,
Oh.
it was a local business, kind of like Lush, if you're familiar with it, where it's all like handmade bath and body products made of coconut oil and stuff instead of scary chemicals with names like propylene glycol.
I am familiar with Lush, but I'm still going to picture you making soap like they did in Fight Club.
Yes.
It was, there was a large tank of lard, or not lard, of lye involved.
Human fat.
Not lard. Although you can use lard. But,
So did you like show up at the front door and say, hey, are you hiring? Or
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I just applied there and they were like, yeah.
Right.
I mean, that was how I got all my other jobs though. Like, I didn't have, they didn't, yeah, like Indeed and stuff like didn't really exist then, because this would have been in 2010.
So I really want to know how you got the librarian job, because that is, I've heard, very hard.
Yeah.
That go in and like in the front door and apply makes you think of all that boomer advice. Like, just go in, ask to see the manager, and give them a firm handshake, and hand them your paper resume. And I'm like, they would yell you out of the store if you did that, Dad. You don't understand how this shit works.
Yeah.
And it's all well-meaning advice, but it was really funny when I was looking for my first job too in the computer programming industry. But my dad was just saying, tell them you're looking to get married and start a family. And I'm like, they would be pissed if they heard that, because all they hear is this guy wants to take time off. Like, you don't understand how you haven't been looking for a job since 1970, Dad, or 1980 something, I guess, at this point. You don't know how this shit works.
My parents did that. Like, they'd drive me to a place and then just drop me off. Like, I remember one time my dad's like, oh, I think like Dino's Diner's hiring. It was just this like local diner. He like drove me over there. He's like, I'll come like pick you up in a bit and
use your wages today.
So
to get
I had to
taxi
like walk
back.
in this place, like talk to like the the hostess. I'm like, hey, like I'm here to apply for a job. Is the manager? And like, oh yeah, he's in the kitchen. So I have to like walk back in the kitchen as a civilian, not in uniform or anything. Be like, hey, where's the manager? Like, that probably still works in some industries, and that's probably what you have to do. But like a lot of people, I think, get jobs through networking, where you do have like your dad's or whatever, or your next door neighbor has this store, your cousin works at this place and can probably get you a job. But other than that, there is kind of there used to be how you got a job, like, and I guess they would post like help wanted sections in the newspaper and stuff. But before the internet, it was very much sort of, and when you're a teenager without job skills, you're just going from door to door being like, here's my resume.
And if you're going to do
or can I fill out an application?
Yeah, and if you're doing that sort of thing, you can't be picky. You got to be like, does anyone need a body to do any sort of work? And then you can find a job that way.
It didn't like make any sense to be picky because it was all kind of the same jobs, although the soap shop was a lot cooler than working in a restaurant, bussing tables or making breakfast sandwiches. because I did get to like run the front of the shop and also make all the products. And making the products was so fun. But also working the desk was really great because I'd just been used to, I'd worked a bunch of cashier jobs, but people grumpy when it comes to the part where they have to part with their money.
Oh,
Uh, except for like if they're going in to buy a gift for someone, which usually they were like buying themselves some like getting some self care like or like buying gifts for people, and they're like, oh, these are so nice. Oh, can you make a gift basket? Yeah, we make gift baskets here. We can make them whatever color. And like, oh my god, let me tell you about my daughter.
All right, we just took a few minute break because we needed to stretch. We've been here for a while, and we were talking in the sequences about word count to information ratio. And I've had a lot of fun, but people aren't here to hear about our career paths. Although I think that's the thing, is there's information to glean there on how we did what we did. None of us are, I think, with the possible exception of Jace, who's been doing, I don't know, 10, 12 things over the last decade.
Something like that.
Like, you're probably the exception of the person who's, like, actually done cool shit with, like, chasing your interests, but the rest of us have kind of just done not so off the beaten path things. What was I going to say? Oh, but if people are looking for, like, okay, that's fine, that's all cool hearing about your guys' stuff, but how do I do stuff?
Yeah, we're gonna jump ahead to some of that. Look how good Steven's gotten at segue. So proud of you.
Lots of practice, I guess.
Yeah, no, I noticed, like, I've been catching up on all my podcasts, and I've, like, just been able to watch you, like, getting better at it in that podcast, and then, like, see you doing it, and, like, I'm like, yeah.
The trick there is that usually I've got, like, a minute where we've been derailed long enough, and then Brian's talking, I'm like, all right, let's think of a way to lead this back to where I was trying to go. So I just look for an opening, and then I shove it in. But...
Speaking of, yeah, like, awkwardly.
That podcast is We Want More.
Yeah. Listen to that one too. If you like this one, you might like that one. So I said about how I got the soap job and like all the other jobs before that was literally just walk in the door, go harass the manager. Some of the advice I got from like my parents and other people in my parents' generation, which they like would tell everybody, like this was the thing you're supposed to do. Oh yeah, like
So it
submit your
sounds like
application and then call them the next day and then keep calling them and keep like come in if they don't answer. Like I was like, you want like so you're like harassing them and giving you a job basically, but this was the advice everybody gave.
Wait, so you're saying that actually worked to get you the jobs, though?
Yeah, I mean,
All right.
it did.
I have an anecdote about that. When I worked at the ice cream shop, I remember the manager going through, and he had just a stack of applications. And I was watching him. He's like, this person called back, this person called back, this person called, and these ones didn't. He just threw them in the trash without looking at them.
Wow.
But he was also an idiot, so
Okay.
take that with a grain of salt.
No, that was like what they would tell you as the explanation for that is like, oh, you'll show that you're committed to the job if you call and like, and that you're like able to be businesslike and professional on the phone and stuff like that. It was just like kind of the thing where it was a signal on both sides of, I guess, conscientiousness and like career suitability where, yeah, but like, it's just, I don't know. It would be so weird to do now. I think, at least I think it would be.
I don't know. Seems like it may still work.
So yeah, as I was like going through college, I was still working. So,
Okay.
and it was a continuation of random weird jobs. Eventually, yeah, like internet, like I don't know, Monster, I think was the first one I used. Monster.com and Indeed and all those started existing, and at that point, then I guess that was like sort of me growing and watching the career like standards change. So that was interesting. But I was working as a sous chef at the end of college when this was actually really cool. The boss's wife who worked at a like finance industry was like, "Hey, you're like majoring in art. There's this guy who just took out a loan to do something with video games, and I mentioned that like you're in school for art, and he might want to hire you." So that was how I like got into the video games industry, and it's one of those sort of networking to it's who you know again, but and it's also like jumping on opportunities. So this was
That is a big one.
Yeah,
Like putting yourself in positions where you might run into opportunities is,
and saying yes to everything.
yeah,
You're
absolutely.
saying.
Yeah.
I really like Derek Sivers actually has good career advice. He's the guy that made CD Baby back in the day, and now he like writes books and music and stuff. what were some of his
No, that,
oh yeah, like one of his like catchy things that I enjoy is say yes to everything, and then like once you've like hit your sort of goal or your success goal, say fuck yeah or no.
yeah, that's. I mean, just having luck is really important, but a lot of people
Yeah.
don't seem to realize that luck. A lot of it is being in positions where you can run into opportunities, and that requires things like going out, being social, saying yes to any sort of requests, and then jumping on them when they do appear.
So let me just tell you how sketchy this was.
Can I, with one sentence, interject?
Yeah.
Speaking of being sketchy, that's how I fell into being a PI for a year.
Okay.
No, I mean that's it. That's the one sentence version.
You were just a really sketchy dude, and
No,
someone
no,
was
no.
like,
It was
spy on people.
I was I did insurance stuff. It was less follow my ex-girlfriend or something. It was insurance fraud. But it was I was in a situation where the idea was presented to me, and I was like, you know what? I hate what I'm doing, being a teller. Let's just see what it takes to get licensed and do this.
Mm-hmm.
And then it happened to be right after I got licensed, I bumped into somebody at like a vape shop. And like he was like, what do you do? And I was like, well, I just got licensed to be a PI. No way, a friend of mine's a PI. And I was like, give him my number. And I worked for that guy for a month. He sucked, but that's how I got in. So
Yeah.
it is just placement and seizing every opportunity too, right?
Yeah.
So that was all I brought it up for.
And it looks, I mean, I don't know. It sounded like you did a little bit of research there too,
Yeah, to get started for sure.
like, or at least to know what it is and get the interest. But
Yeah.
I'll get to that with the library job. I just want to like real quick, just because this is hilarious. So yeah, she's like, "Here's this guy's phone number," and I call, and it's his personal cell, and it was just like, "Hey, yeah, I'm looking for artists. Come by my house. It's like this address. Just let yourself in.
Oh shit.
Bring your portfolio. I'll show you some of the stuff we're working on." I was just like, "Okay, this is fine." Brought like a knife in my back pocket, my portfolio, and literally, like, I got to his house. I call him. He's like, "I'm down in the basement. Yeah, the front door's open. Here's the code for my garage. Just walk in. Door on your left goes down to the basement. Just let yourself in." I was
Wow.
like, "Okay, let's go in the basement now."
Text my friends, let them know where I'm at.
Oh yeah, but it was legit. Yeah.
It's kind of crazy. He trusted you with the code to his garage too.
This was the kind of person this guy was. He was like creative genius, very ADD, and very like he was so good at doing pitches for projects. We got so many projects because he would just like get so fucking excited about whatever it was we were pitching that like he was practically like bouncing up and down, and it was infectious.
Cool.
Not so good at like the organizational side of things. That was what I was doing a lot of. Library. So after being in the games industry for like 6 years, getting really disillusioned with it, changing, like getting laid off, it's building a new company, getting bought by another company, like I realized that like my goals changed to wanting to do something values oriented, where if I had gone back like to me in school, I kind of was like, I guess I'll get this art degree and probably become a graphics designer and be making ads or some shit, and then like I never really could have imagined that I would have been like working in the video games. It's just, like I worked for Disney at one point, and it was just like if I went and told my past self that, I'd be like, no way. And then like doing it, I was like, actually, I don't like this. It was, I don't know. There was a point where like the love of video games and art like stopped being motivating.
I think we could touch on a little bit of hacking, like you said. I worked at Disney at one point, which most people would be like, "Holy shit, how did that happen?"
Yeah, by like the same thing of like take a chance on creepy guy in the basement, and eventually we got hired. We were working for Microsoft originally and making like web-based MMOs, and then we pitched a project to Disney, and it was one of those like bunch of people are pitching to be the ones hired for this specific project, and we were the ones hired.
Excellent.
And so like I never had like a goal of working for Disney, and but then I like ended up there, and I was like, hey, cool. So the library though, I was hanging out like a real lot in this library, and after like the period where like the rest of my fellow employees and my boss were trying to like form a new startup and I was just like, I'm sick of this. I was hanging out at this library a lot, and I was like attending a bunch of their events, and at one like point I like helped them fix their projector, and like so like people who were working there knew me, and I was reading like I was into Tim Ferriss at the time, and so I think that in particular I'll have to see if I can find it and link it, but there was this one article that was a guest that was posting on his blog, and probably someone he did an interview with, was talking about backdoors into careers, and he said that he wanted to like work at this one radio company, like be a radio host, I think it was, and he just like I called there, called the place, was like, hey, like could I talk to the manager, and then like I think just asked him like, hey, what would it take to get a job, in radio. And I forget if he didn't, he might not have even like led up with that, but like he just sort of became friends with this dude. And I think maybe helped him with like something else that he was like consulting or advertising or something. And then like by building that rapport with the person, then they were willing to be like, rather than, I don't know if any of these employees are qualified, but like this one has a degree and this one doesn't. It's like, oh, well, this one has a degree. Oh, but that one's Dave. We love Dave, or whatever his name was. And there were some other suggestions about like backdoor ways of finding your way into a career, and I started actually like trying to put that into practice. I was like, this library is a good opportunity. I remember as a kid, I was like talked out of being a librarian real early because I did hear the stuff that Aniash was saying, like, oh yeah, like, well, you need a master's degree and it's really competitive, and there's not like, there wasn't a robust library system in New Jersey because Governor Christie slashed library funding. Boo. But
so you hung out at the library a lot?
yeah, hung out there, made friends with the director,
and you helped when they needed things done.
Yep. And yeah, I did some volunteer stuff. I volunteered. I made them a logo and helped them like do some graphics for their website.
Awesome. And
then like eventually I was like, hey, what would it take to get hired here? And I didn't have any background in library science, but they were like, oh yeah, like Jason's been here, like it was again like you were bringing up the thing of like being someone that people want to work with. Yeah.
And especially like with the logo and the website, you did something for them that they couldn't do on their own. You weren't just like a grunt lending a hand. You were like, for them to do this would take special training or hiring someone, and you were like, hey, I have these skills, and then they remember you for that.
Yep. And then I just did the other thing that I was talking about before, where I kind of I learned how to like run the SQL database and run the circulation desk, and then do like interlibrary loans, like all
you learned all that on the job.
Yeah.
So you were just like,
just following people around, being an extra pair of hands until I like learned how to do a thing, and then I would be like, okay, what else can I help with? Eventually, I was doing like all the things.
Yeah.
And
it started with, I'm here a lot, I help a lot. Is there any way I can get a job?
Yep. It's like, yeah, you're hiring somebody part-time, you need some extra help for the summer. And, and then, like, eventually it was,
Then you were already there to
eventually I was, like, saying, hey, like, what if I got my library master's and, like, could I be hired on as a librarian? Because I was, like, a library assistant. Although they like promoted me to a job that didn't really exist, but it was like a media specialist, library media specialist, which is a name that we made up and sort of crafted by looking at job postings so they could justify giving me a promotion. And the director was like, oh, well, like, you could go get your master's, but you already know everything that they're going to teach you. And I was just like, something else that I think was in that same Tim Ferriss article.
Since after he said that, were you able to just go straight to librarian then?
No.
That was another one of those you have to have it.
Yeah, there is the the degree barrier, so they can, I guess, justify the high salary. But like, yeah, that was kind of I thought that was kind of bullshit. Where it's like, what if you do like start as an entry level employee and work your way to the point where it's like, at least your company offered to like help pay for the college. This was me just saying, hey, what if I take my own money and like go do this? But yeah, I think it was, I forget if it was a different Tim Ferriss article. I'll have to see if I can find these two. I tried searching for them and they didn't come up as readily as before, but maybe I just need to tinker with my search terms. Yeah, and I'm sure I can find it, I think, with this quote. There's a guy said, like, oh, the standard pace is for chumps. And he was talking about how he went, I forget if it was when he went to college originally or when he went back to college, but he realized that you can test out of classes. So he was just like, oh, this is like a superpower. Like, so he just made himself a boot camp, crammed for the stuff, and then tested out of each subject.
Nice.
Like he like had to, I think, talk it over with the professors or the school faculty, but it's like basically, yeah, if you can submit these 3 projects and then like pass the final exam, that'll prove that you know the subject matter well enough that we can just like be like, yeah, you get those credits. So he like, I forget how much faster he got through college that way, but that's like that's more of a education hacking, I guess. But
I really strongly agree with the standard paces for chumps thing. I think we've touched on this several times, but like way back in the day used to be you got the one job, you would get promoted slowly over time, and eventually you retired from that same job you started at 40 years ago. And now you just don't do that. That's stupid.
yeah, you can't do that. Most
No.
places like just don't even have the higher level jobs to offer, or
Yeah.
Or they don't care about giving you like. I mean,
they're not like helping you accelerate your career.
or incentivize you to stick around. You know, like this was an off year for my company anyway, but I was given a 1.5% raise, which, and I'm close to my manager, so I was able to say this when he delivered that number. I was like, oh, that's almost inflation.
Yeah.
And so, like, I mean,
Nice.
if they were to give me 1.5% every year for the next 10 years, I'd be fucked, right? Now, I have a friend who's been in the industry for over 20 years, and this is the first job he's been at long enough to get a raise.
What industry? Programming?
Yeah, programming. And so, like, he's jumped so frequently over the last 20 years that he's like, yeah, I just got my first raise.
Yeah, I think programming is definitely much more supercharged than jobs in general. But even so, you
But-
should be
but not
looking
that much
to-
more,
Yeah,
I think, yeah.
You should be
Yeah.
looking to transfer to a different department if your company is large enough, or just get moved to a different job that's better placed every 3 years or so.
At the very least, I think for other industries, you want a title change.
Yeah.
Like, you don't want to be the same.
You don't want to
if
be a
you have-
library
if you-
assistant. You want to be media specialist.
Right. If you have
Yeah.
a business card or not, but whatever your job title is listed as, you want that to change every few years, because
Yes.
then the company can justify to their higher ups why they're giving you a 15% raise.
Right.
Yeah.
And it looks much better on your resume when you go to, when you are shopping around for the other job, you're like, look, I started out as an accountant. I went to
Yeah.
accountant two years later. 3 years after that, they put me to accountant supervisor, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or senior accountant or whatever. Just like always, even if it doesn't come with like a pay raise, especially because jobs change over time. They're like the stuff you originally hired onto, you often do less and less, and they give you more of other work. So eventually, once you're like, look, I do a lot of stuff now I didn't do before. Can I get a different title for it? Even if it doesn't come with a pay raise, you get a different title on your CV or what's the other word for
Resume?
CV? Resume, yeah. And that looks better to the next people you're showing it to. You're like, look,
Ah,
I get promoted.
fancy
frequently.
title.
Beats the hell out of accountant 2004 to present.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're ready to wrap up, we can
No.
wrap it. No.
Well, I had more subjects to hit. Like maybe we can go more quickly over some of the things.
I mean, we definitely should. It's
Yeah.
getting long.
We talked about boot camps. We talked about accelerated learning, and so there's also the option to take especially now that everyone's working from home, going to school from home. Online courses are blowing up. There's online courses for like just about everything, and some of them offer certifications. And I think MIT or maybe I forget if it's MIT or Stanford, and maybe some other the bigger universities, but they offer their courses for free. Not with you don't get the degree if you didn't pay for the course, but if you just want to learn the material. So like depending on how much rapport you have with whoever's maybe going to hire you, you could also just like tell them, well, I took this course. I don't have the like ability to prove it, but I can like talk to you and prove that I know the material. Maybe you can at least put it on a resume. And you can like skill up by doing things that you could stick on a resume. You could go volunteer. Say that you wanted to like work at a nonprofit. I mean, or like an NGO. You can definitely go like take a volunteer stint, and you can put that on a resume as experience. I wanted to talk about 80,000 hours,
Oh, okay.
which is it's rationalist adjacent. I don't know if it
I think the professed goal is to like not just get you into a job, but get you into a high earning industry that you're equipped to do.
Yeah.
And with the understanding that you'll probably give a lot of that money to charity.
Yeah,
And
it's
so yeah, like 80,000 hours is roughly the amount of working hours you get in a currently healthy adult human working span. It's interesting. I'm curious about your take on this. I'm only jumping in just because I had a question about this. Like my immediate thought shortly after learning about 80,000 hours was that like if you get into a high-paying industry just to give away a bunch of money, whether or not that's actually, you can put that on one side. Like, if you're optimizing for income, there's a good chance you'll find a job that you don't love,
Yeah.
or that you don't even really like that much. And that my understanding was that the burnout rate was kind of high. I'm sure they've actually calibrated that in though. This was 10 years ago when I first heard about this.
Yeah, I
so.
think the goal is, just to make big bucks and then do what you want, I guess. But you could donate a bunch of it to charity, and you don't have to like live that life forever. Like if you don't like being a stock trader, you could work as a stock trader for a bit if you have the ability to do it. And maybe it kind of sucks, but then you got a bunch of money that you can not only give to charity but also like invest or use to like float you to your next thing.
While you take a coding boot camp.
Yeah, exactly.
Wasn't 80,000 hours also very much about like not just making money, although that was like one option for people, but specifically about making an impact with your career?
Yeah, so
Like on changing the future?
I was talking about like values oriented, and it's kind of, yeah, like people are gonna have different goals for what they want to do in their career. Like, do you just want to make money? Do you want to travel? Do you want to just learn stuff? Are you like motivated by helping others? 80,000 hours, has the goal of optimizing the job search for like highly skilled or like highly motivated candidates. So there's like job advice and job training opportunities there. If you're a young person in the rationalist community, probably, or not even a young person, they started out, they said explicitly, like, we're mostly gearing our advice and stuff towards, like, college grads because we have to, pick a place to focus on now, and that's, like, the people that have the most years to give to the cause. But they've started, from what I've heard, expanding a lot more of their advice to be applicable to, so if you already, are in a career and you want to change or whatever, I think that they have stuff for you now. And I also intended to check that out, and I haven't done it yet, so that's a reminder to myself.
I think that's good. Like I said, I imagined that they had optimized a bit over the last decade, because I remember when I first looked into it, it might have been in the earlier days of it. Well, it definitely was, because it was 10 years ago, but it might have been in the early days of it, not just the earlier days. And the fact that they're iterating and improving the process is reassuring. I'm trying to think of, like, any general advice that I could think of, and it's kind of just like my same advice for everything, which is like, don't be afraid to take a leap for something. Mm-hmm. But the downside of that is that
calculated risks.
Right, calculated risks, and not just like take a leap and like I'm gonna quit and start painting and sell that. Like that's a great ambition, but I would start something like that. That isn't like a waged job. I would start that as a side project.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't bank your mortgage on, like, you suddenly taking off as an artist.
It's like writing or podcasting.
Right. There's no, when there's not a guaranteed minimum that you're making, then it tends to be a lot scarier. But the other thing about even, like, the general leap of faith that I'm talking about that's safer and more calibrated, like, even that comes with some, like, I don't throw this word around a lot, but some level of privilege. Like, I'm lucky enough that I have parents that continue to care about me, and that if I was ever, like, I'll never be homeless.
Right.
Like, if I needed it, I could move back into their house at any time. And so, if my adventure into programming had taken a complete shit and I had never gotten anywhere, well, I wouldn't, end up homeless, right? So, like, I have that safety net. If you don't have that, obviously you have to be more careful about the risks you take. But
Can I speak briefly about the first career hacking from Less Wrong that I'm familiar with?
Yeah.
This was, I guess, back in the day, 2009, 2010 maybe. Someone posted on Less Wrong about this opportunity in Australia.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up.
Yeah.
Optimized income.
Is that the name of the post?
Optimal income?
Okay.
Yeah, we can find it.
It was a thing in Australia where you could go as with a temporary visa and get a job, basically a low-skill job out in the far lesser populated places, and you would get paid a decent amount due to the fact that they had nationwide minimum wage laws. And
they recommended like working at a hotel, and they're like, you will get like 3 meals a day and a free room, so you can go there, you can just save all the money you make.
Cost of living was very low out in these more remote areas. You still got paid a good amount because the minimum wage is calibrated for cities rather than these areas. And the government, it would take a fair chunk of money in taxes for the government retirement program or whatever, but when you left the country after a year or however many months you got, they would give all that back to you. And basically, it was just a large chunk of cash for going out, having a really cool, unique experience in a foreign country for a year. And that money could then be used to fund all sorts of things, like, for example, going into a coding boot camp for a long period of time, or putting down a down payment on a house or whatever. I know Thomas, who we've had on this podcast before, Thomas Elliott, did that thing in Australia.
Yeah.
And he said it was fucking awesome. And it was how he got started with a lot of things, including funding his own board game making business.
Is it Sixpence Games?
Yes.
Yeah. So I'd recommend looking at that. And I also helped kickstart his book, The Translation of the Enchiridion.
Mm-hmm.
It's a modern human translated version of was it
It's one of the great Stoic
Epicurus?
works. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I like.
Wait, hold on. I got to hear the rest of this cliffhanger. Is this still an option? You said.
I'm sure it's not right now because of COVID. I don't know if it will be again afterwards. So that would be great to look into. But one of the things that this brings up is finding areas where people really need people to come work, because there aren't a lot of people. There are things like this in the US. They will pay you extra to go out to remote areas. Being a teacher in remote areas can often pay very well because no one wants to go teach there.
Yeah, especially English as a second language.
Yep.
That's what I was going to mention, is that I know that there are programs that'll pay you to come out and live in Vietnam or Japan or whatever to come teach English.
Really, any place where there's government resources being put into propping up an industry is also a good place to go to look for jobs. It's kind of scummy because, I don't like the government funneling money away from one place to another place that they...
Do you have examples of this?
The one that comes to mind immediately, because I do it, is the government in the U.S. props up home buying a lot, which is why it's such a good idea to buy places here and renovate them.
Yeah.
Because the amount of support government gives to homeowners here in the U.S. is crazy.
I have been, even though I'm doing the coding boot camp now, I was laughing a little earlier because you said it, but I'm kind of just doing it so I have a thing to do right now. It's like I'm in school. So not just I'm being unemployed, but one of the things I was thinking about was kind of would be cool to flip houses.
Yeah.
That's one of those sort of taking a risk thing where either it works out or it doesn't, and then you just kind of are screwed.
And take advantage of these kind of programs. I know someone who got into a coding boot camp and said specifically, they are in lots of high-tech companies, they're looking for female programmers because they want to get that ratio. Yeah.
Well, I could be the trans programmer.
Exactly. I think you fill some sort of
too.
demographic. Yeah. But they're trying to get that
uncommon.
ratio closer to 50-50. And so female programmers are just in greater demand in a lot of these companies. And she was like, I think I can get a decent job pretty easily because of that. So she went right for it.
I worked with a couple of recruiters at my last job. And I like to make the joke that they made the ultimate recruiting decision and recruited themselves into programming.
Okay.
And so they wound up on my team over my years there, and they both said something similar where and it's just sexism, whatever, all the implications or whatever aside, the fact is that when they would sort resumes, female resumes were on top.
Right.
If you happen to belong to some minority, like non-English speaking, or person of color, or disabled, or queer.
And
I think it was easiest for them
really
to do female because that was obvious in the name.
Yeah.
And so they didn't necessarily get the when you apply for a job and it says check your race, check your whatever, a lot of those don't get translated or don't get transferred to the recruiter themselves, but your actual resume does with your name. And if your name is...
Yeah, but there's that's totally a thing though, where there's various government programs you can look for. I remember when I was actually looking into possibly getting a library master's, I was like, I wonder if there's financial programs that I could apply for, and there was the single women grant or something, since I wasn't married, and I was just like,
You didn't have to be a mom or anything?
It was
a lot of those are single mothers, but it was just single women in general.
I am trying to remember what it was, but
you don't have kids.
I think
and
it was
qualified.
Single women that were making under a certain amount of money or something like that.
Nice.
I did not end up applying for it, but I recommend, I don't know, if you can think of some way to fund a thing or some exemption like that. Exemption's not really the word I want, but...
And it really does depend on the industry. There's some that are trying to close perceived gaps or actual gaps, and there's others that just don't give a fuck.
Yeah, I wasn't making any like actual advice on mine. I was just relating one anecdote that backed up what you said.
Like if you're trying to get a
That was good
construction
advice, though.
job, that'll probably be, and you're less likely to get one if you're of the female persuasion.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably true, I guess.
Of the female persuasion.
I don't know how these gender words work anymore.
Yeah, if your name makes it sound like you were born with a vagina, then they won't pick you to fix roofs or something, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I had a friend who got hired at GameStop, and it was because they thought he was a girl.
Oh, really?
Because I think he was trans, but he had to apply under his legal name because he hadn't changed it legally yet, and like because he had a like stereotypically female name, even though he had come in and like he had had a deep voice, facial hair, like like looked like a cis guy because he transitioned early, motherfucker. But like and handed his resume to the guy. The guy I guess forgot or something and was just like, oh, like female name, yeah, like we could put a chick at the counter. Get more of the, like the gamer guys in here. And then like they were like disappointed when he actually came in, and they're like, it's like, oh, we thought like I don't know, I wanted to hire a girl, but like they already hired it, so it was like just this really awkward. He didn't like stay at that job for very long because it was very awkward.
Well, plus
after
like
that.
for someone to say I meant to hire someone else is definitely a weird
Yeah.
thing to hear on your starting day. Also, I have a friend who worked at GameStop. She is a girl, and she hated it apparently. And
Everyone hates it.
She's big into video games, and I also thought that like, oh, it'd be fun to work at a video game store because I like video games. And I met her actually at the coding bootcamp I went to. And she was like, oh no, it's a fucking nightmare. Like, it sucks all the fun out of it. I'm like, oh, well, that's good to know, because I wouldn't expect that.
Well, it's not like you get to play the video games for your job. It's
No,
just another shitty retail
But
job.
it's your job to, maybe spend...
Categorize them and then like talk them up to people. And,
Yeah.
be like, hey, I played that one. It was whatever. And
Yeah, you get to
nerd
read
out.
the reviews of whatever Demon Souls remake and talk to the...
Oh, and do you get an employee discount?
Probably, yeah. But also
probably not very
GameStop
good.
sucks. I lost all my enjoyment of GameStop when they stayed open way late into the pandemic so that they could
Oh, God,
sell
yeah.
Doom and Animal Crossing in stores.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's, I don't know. I've often heard do what you love for a living, but I've also heard never ever try to make what you love into a job, because then you won't love it anymore.
Yeah, I mean,
do it for the love.
when
right? And if you get paid for it, cool.
Right. That's how I treat the podcast and the writing.
Exactly.
You don't get paid very much, but you get paid something, and I do it not for the money, but because I love doing it.
Right.
it is worth noting, I think, that like you might find out that you don't actually love the thing you loved. Like working in the games industry, I like, started out like designing levels and coming up with game design documents, and then like eventually by the end I was social media manager and doing analytics, like search engine optimization, and like it was just all marketing BS, and I was not into it anymore. They just needed somebody to do those things, and that's the downside to being the person of like, give me more tasks. I want to learn anything. Like, oh yeah, you want to learn how to do like social media management? And I was like, not really. Like, well, we really need someone to do. Okay. And they're like, oh, well, Jace is really good at that. So like, you can make it. And I was just like, no.
You say yes to things.
Yeah, don't say yes to things that you'll hate,
Yeah.
or like that you suspect you'll hate. But like also, your goals might change every time. You might start out just looking to get a job that'll make money, and realize like, oh, actually, I'm more motivated for helping people or learning stuff.
I also totally want to walk back what I just said. I would not do this podcast if I was not getting paid for it. So
Yeah,
he's saying that with a smirk.
nope, it's totally true.
working in the games industry, like I was not playing video games when I came home, like, and I loved video games, and it was like actually kind of this wake up call of like, oh, sometimes doing what you love can wreck your love of the thing.
My brother worked for a few months ish at a donut place, and it was like you make all the donuts at night, and then they sell them all first thing in the morning. And now he doesn't like donuts.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's like, yeah, it ruined donuts for him, and donuts are a treasure. And so I think maybe it's been enough time where he can enjoy them again. But for years he was like, oh no, fuck that, I'm good. Yeah, I think seeing how the sausage is made can take some of the energy out of something that you might otherwise enjoy. Especially too, I mean, I'm trying to think like, you mentioned carpentry and stuff, and I was like, oh, make a beautiful table. That's different than pumping out a dozen tables a day for a job, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, if you did that, then like you don't want to go home and work on your table project that you've been working on for the last few months. Like, no, I just spent my whole day, covered in sawdust and like, doing all this shit. Like now I hate doing it. So,
Yeah.
but that people's mileage varies there probably.
Yeah, my
for sure.
dad comes home and just continues building stuff. Like my childhood home, he built it, and then like it was kind of hilarious by the time like my parents, all their kids moved out, they finally sold it, but it was just like excessively large, and my dad just like built like a tiki hut in the back, and then he put an in-ground pool, and then he put like a waterfall. Like he just like couldn't stop adding stuff. And it was kind of that it was like all this stuff to manage. Yeah. Anyway, let's see what else.
We are
We talked about optimal income, backdoors, 80,000 hours. And yeah, I just want to I didn't actually say this directly, but I want to reiterate. Google has its own job search feature where it'll just scrape from Indeed and Monster and all that. So I always just Google now clinical research jobs near me, and it'll just right in the search results populate some links to the different postings that are on those sites. So that's a handy trick if you're looking for a job. And if you don't know what you want to do and want to explore more jobs, try Googling things you're interested in, or just look for jobs near me, entry level, and maybe paid training, or training included. Tinker around with the search results, and maybe just throw an application at a bunch of things and try it out for a bit. You can quit, and it's much less stigmatized now. That was one of the things that I kind of was frustrated at my. I went to Clinical Research Fast Track, which is the boot camp. I recommend them a lot. The education was really high quality, but I remember that the director at the time, one of her advice to students thing was even if you're gonna land your first job, maybe it won't be a great job, maybe the people kind of suck, maybe they maybe it doesn't pay great, but stick with it for a few years, just grit your teeth and stick with it, so you can put it on a resume, and then you won't be one of those people that are just wishy-washy job jumping. And I was just oh no, as soon as I heard that.
Okay, boomer.
But yeah, then I was oh, she's my parents' age, so that's I think just most industries know that that's not how the world works anymore, and they've they're taking advantage of it. You might as well, get a job. If you hate it, leave. Go get another one.
Yeah, I think that's a mindset mentality that's switched with our generation. That the idea of gritting your teeth for a few years is a complete fuck you. It's no, why would I hate my life for 7 years when I could go do something else?
Exactly.
And unless that's what you're doing on purpose. Oh yeah, this is going to take me 10 years to get to where I'm, planning to end up, then, that's different. Then you're gritting your teeth for a known end, not just because you feel like you need to for 5 or 6 years. Mm-hmm. That's terrible. I can't imagine, well, actually now I can't imagine what point I was trying to make there, other than I think that's a generational shift that I'm in favor of. Don't be deliberately unhappy if you can avoid it. Yeah. Well, then you're not being deliberately unhappy, right? Yeah, so...
I'm less a fan of the companies aren't going to try to support your career anymore, because people know that the businesses know that that's not how the market works anymore, so they can just shuffle, they can overhire and then lay off if they need to. They can not promote people.
Well, that's why you gotta move around a lot.
Yeah, but that's why you gotta it's not they're not going to take it personally, and if they do, don't work for them.
I do find it weird how sometimes people get attached to their jobs. I don't know if I'm an unfeeling monster or something, but at my last job, I'd been there for 6 years, and then I got laid off, and I knew it was coming. My company had been laying off people every December for I think 4 years.
Man, that period, I went through that so many times with the games industry, because that's just part and parcel. But that period where the layoffs are coming, but you're still clocking in every day.
It was always
when's it gonna be me? When's it gonna be me?
Yeah, but when I got laid off, I was okay, cool. I can go right full time now for a while I'm on unemployment. And my boss, when she called me in to tell me, was crying out of just frustration and anger, and she was upset that I was getting laid off, and I was oh my god, it's a job. I don't care about you that much. I certainly didn't have emotional I didn't have emotional attachments to this
every
job.
Single one of you. Yeah. I'm gonna miss this potted plant.
It must be different in the situation where you're saying, I'm sorry I'm taking away your livelihood. That for her being upset, that's just her not being an unfeeling monster.
She was just telling me that upper management was,
But she's delivering the news.
I guess.
Yeah.
It sucks to be the one delivering the news.
But a lot of people, they get laid off and they cry and they get upset, and I'm what did you expect? It's a company. It's a profit maximizing endeavor. When you are no longer maximizing profit, they will fix that.
Those people probably are thinking that it's the previous paradigm where like the companies did used to look out for their people.
Yeah.
But like I don't know
Some
if
still
I
do.
like that.
Apparently it's a big thing in Japan.
Yeah, different cultures too.
Yeah,
But I'm
yeah.
kind of like going back and forth between like the way it is now is like more efficient. I guess it like improves capitalism. It like makes individual people's lives a bit crappier though, and then like, but it's like, is it really good to keep somebody around because of loyalty?
Right.
I mean, I guess like
It's not economically
reliability
good
and like
anyway.
knowing this person and their capabilities, I guess could be good, but like,
Yeah.
but then it could also, incentivize people that they just stay in the company. Everybody knows this person, who's like in some upper management position. They suck at their job, and the only reason they're still there is because they've been there for so long that you can't fire them.
Well, and it also means that companies lose a lot of human capital because their employees are changing every 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
And then that means they got to retrain people, and they lose that institutional knowledge that person had. On the other hand, that can be a good thing too. You draw in new blood, you shake things up, but it also comes with costs. Like when I leave my position, I know that my company's going to be kind of fucked because they have a hard time hiring people, especially right now in Denver. Accountants are just hard to find.
Really?
Yeah.
Weird. I feel like a lot of people my age were going into accounting because they had all read the same books that said that was going to be a big growth area.
Oh, okay.
I think they were wrong because nobody really accounted for like internet,
No one accounted for? Was that a pun?
or I guess.
No one did the accounting
Sorry,
to it?
yeah, okay. I'm trying to remember.
I mean, I still get twice a month emails from recruiters being like, "Hey, you want to go to this other accounting job?" I'm like, "No, not for a long time now."
They just find you.
Yeah, well, because
Recruiters.
they're like, "Oh, here is someone who is working at an accounting position. Let's see if we can poach him to these
Yeah.
clients of ours."
Yeah, that's I guess a career hack is you can like find recruiters and be like, "Hey, want to recruit me for things?" I found that some recruiters do like kind of want to work as your advocate. So
And some are just desperate to land you in a position, but that means that you got a job.
their job is
They
to
get a
like
cut
get
every
jobs
time.
for other people. So yeah, or like if you're in school, there's career counselors that can help you too.
But the career counselors don't get a paycheck every time they find someone a career, whereas the recruiters do.
Yeah. Resources. I'm running out of steam.
I think we should wrap
Maybe
it
we
up.
could revisit it sometime, but I think oh yeah, one final thing. So I have a friend who wanted to work at Miri,
Mm.
and she was just, she did the thing of contacting, like, went to the Bay, just socialized a lot, found people that knew people that knew people, and was eventually able to like find somebody who worked there in order to ask like, hey, what do I need in order to work at Miri? And this is someone who I think she did not go to college or like do well at school due to like depression issues or like life things, but they're like, okay, you need like this level math, you should be able to do X, Y, and Z. She was like, cool, all right, and then just did it, just or is still in the process of like, okay, now I'm gonna go back through college math, back to this like higher level math now, okay, and then like I'm at this level in programming now, so like I can check that one off, just like got a spreadsheet and just like systematically is like, okay, learn that thing, learn that thing, learn that thing. So like you could also shoot for the moon for like whatever your dream job is or whatever really prestigious thing you want to do or help with, and just do the research, figure out what it takes, like Stephen was saying earlier about like, yeah, what does it take to be a private investigator? I mean, like that seems like a cool movie job. It's a cool, like, even if like the actual reality of it turned out that it wasn't that great, that like being able to tell people that you're a private investigator is pretty sweet.
Meh. But your point's taken.
Or it looks cool on a resume or whatever,
I don't put it on my resume, but I hear what you're saying. Like in general, yeah, I think the only piece about your friend's story that I think is cautionary is I wouldn't move out to the part of the country that your job is in unless you have something lined up for it. Like, I feel like she may have just been able to spam everyone who worked there with an email saying, how do I get a job there, from the safety and comfort of where she's already lived without having to live in the Bay Area.
I don't know if it's
there's
not
a
really the
lot
same
that-
as meeting people.
Yeah, face-to-face
But
interactions.
just if you're
and
asking just
networking
what it takes to
still.
get the job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but she had to like figure out how to get in touch with one of the people that worked there in order to ask the question.
That's why everyone who wants to act has to move out to Hollywood.
Hmm.
You really got to be where the action is
Where
happening.
the people are.
Yeah.
Yeah. What what's next? What's on our? Do we have anything else? Any feedback, or do
We,
want to
you,
just
we
make a
do
Patreon
have
and-
a thing just in time for the holidays.
Oh yes.
Silliest gifts to get somebody.
Yes. So I mentioned before that Jace made our beautiful Bayesian conspiracy logo. We now have one of those internet store things where you can buy stuff that has our logo on it. Things like what is it? Coffee mug, mouse pads for people who still use mouse pads. I don't know.
I use a mouse pad.
Do you?
Yeah, I've got an optical mouse. It kind of needs a pad to
Yeah.
see what it's doing.
I've got
I also have a glass desk.
I was gonna say I've got a
Oh,
glass
okay,
desk.
Okay. All right, yeah.
Um,
I've found optical mice work perfectly on everything except, I guess, reflective
Except
surfaces.
phone cases.
Yes, that's right. Phone cases, technically t-shirts. I personally do not advocate anyone buy clothes that they can't try on first because cuts are, important and you got to see what they look like. But if you would like to buy a t-shirt anyway or a hoodie or something with our logo on it, you can do that.
And stickers.
And stickers, yes, lots of stickers.
This might be the first time I put a sticker on my car.
Yeah.
Maybe.
So
I don't know.
there's a whole load of options for things that you can buy that have our logo on them. And we get a cut of, anything that you purchase because otherwise, why would we do this?
I didn't know we got a cut. I thought when you showed us this like a month ago, and I was like, oh, that's cool. I thought it was just a service that somebody did for us. I didn't know we got.
No, we, a small part of that goes into our bank account, and then we get that, at the end of the year.
Oh, well, that's interesting. I'm buying a phone case, and I didn't know that I was somehow putting $0.25 back in my own pocket, but whatever. Yeah, I have no idea what the ratio is on that, but we'll have a link to that on the episode description, and I'm assuming on the website, prominently displayed somewhere at this point.
Oh, yes, I will do that.
All right, perfect. We'll find somewhere to put it on the website as well. Link to the store.
Yeah.
Yay.
Cool.
Now I feel like I need to make more graphics, or maybe this will finally motivate me to make more graphics.
If you want to, that'd be cool. I love the one we have, and at this point, it's iconic.
That's true.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
All right, we should. Who's our patron for this episode?
Our patron, do we remember whose turn it is?
I'm gonna give it to you because we're not keeping track. We'll start doing that.
Okay. Our patron this week is Beth Smith. Thank you. Yes. Thank you, Beth Smith. Because of you, we are having slightly better careers in the podcasting world. Is that it?
It's not about that. It's about the support. Again,
It's about us getting to do this thing we like,
Yeah, and it's nice to know that people,
and other people
Enjoy
like.
it enough to be willing to pay for it.
Yeah, I have a hard time just saying that every time, but it always makes me happy to, I don't know, see that. And the other thing that this has always done for me too is I now donate more to Patreon stuff of things that I enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
The second that we opened up our own, and I'm like, oh yeah, why aren't I giving financial support to Derek Banas that makes coding tutorials on YouTube? Why don't I give Binging with Babish money every month? Like, I love watching his shows when they come out. So
yeah, my life is measurably improved by these things, and I'm willing to give a little bit of money for that because that's time that people aren't pursuing their careers and hacking them.
Exactly.
I basically give to GiveWell or like individual creators.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. It's just I like to either be giving to the most effective charity or like specifically to a person who made a thing that I like.
Yeah,
And it's kind
I
of
view
cool because
them-
like if you're a writer,
Yeah.
you get and you're going the traditional publishing route. That's not accessible to everybody. And also, like, by the time you get your royalties, like, everybody along in the process has taken a chunk out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you are a writer supported by Patreon, you get all that money, except for the amount Patreon takes.
Yes,
Uh,
but that's not nearly
So-
as much as how much the publishing industry takes.
yeah. But, hey, that's another career hack. Do something cool. Make a Patreon. Although, I don't know, because a lot of Patreons, I think, don't really pay enough to be like your full-time thing, but at least you can support somebody's like side thing that
almost.
might eventually turn into a not side thing.
Yeah, I think
almost none of them pays enough.
Yeah,
for-
the super majority probably doesn't pay enough to pay your bills on, but it pays enough to keep you incentivized to keep going.
Yeah.
And if all it does is pay your cable bill, that's more than nothing.
I will say there have been some weeks where I've been like, oh God, I don't want to do it. Let's call it off. But having that
disappoint.
financial incentive really helps as well.
Oh,
Yeah.
good. Well, if your friendship and camaraderie to us isn't enough, I'm glad
No,
that there's
screw
some-
you guys.
All right. Well, that's it for this one. We have a couple of fun episodes lined up, but I'm not sure which one's coming up next. So just stay tuned knowing that I'm excited about at least, if it's not the next two, it'll be the next 3 or 4 we've been contacted by some people that I'm excited to do episodes with. So
Yeah.
hold on to your seats; they should be fun.
Excellent.
All right.
All right. Thanks, everyone, and have a great. No, Thanksgiving's already over.
Happy holidays.
There we go.
There it is.
Bye.